800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Ammon Bundy, the purported leader of an occupation at a wildlife refuge in Oregon, and several of his companions were arrested by federal authorities Tuesday evening. A law enforcement source told CNN that shots were fired during a parking stop where Ammon Bundy and 7 others were arrested, though it was not clear who opened fire first. LaVoy Finicum, who acted as the group's spokesman, was killed by police during the incident. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Retail giant CVS is gearing up for floods of customers seeking the perfect meaningless piece of crap for their office gift swap. The company is making no secret that when it comes to wasting the obligatory $20 on a useless electronic dartboard or pretzel maker for someone you couldn't care less about, CVS is your best option.
Our incredible selection of worthless shit is just the thing that nobody wants. We guarantee you'll find nothing personal or unique in our store.
The company is offering massive discounts on otherwise unsellable items for holiday parties you don't even want to go to, like the $12 decorative lantern, which is expected to be a big hit with customers who grab the first thing they see when they walk in the store.
I really wanted to get something that said, I don't care about any of you people and I didn't put any effort into this.
CVS also has Hanukkah gifts for coworkers who you think might be Jewish, like candles and those little plastic net bags full of chocolate money.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. Dial in toll-free to join us here on the radio waves. We'll give you the numbers and the Skype here in moments. If you've got comments on the Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve, the bust that we thankfully were made aware of last night by one of our listeners. It happened in the very final hour of Free Talk Live, and obviously the details at that time were fairly, well, minimal. We knew that there had been some shots fired at that time. We did not know that someone had died. Turns out one guy did die, and we do have more information about who he was, LaVoy Finicum. In addition to that, 8 people have been arrested. Last night we thought there were 4 people who were arrested, but it turns out they actually made arrests not just at the pullover, because they pulled over some of the occupiers from the Federal Wildlife Reserve as they were driving to another town for some sort of meeting. They pulled them over, and that's where the shootout happened, or the alleged shootout. From what we were told, or what we've understood.
Shots were fired.
Right.
We don't know how many shots or which sides fired more than one shot.
The claim is LaVoy had his hands up.
That's the claim by the occupiers, is that the guy who was shot to death was standing with his hands up. So, we're going to tell you more about that here as we go on. But in addition, there were 4 people who we thought last night. Now there are 8. It turns out what they did was they actually went after people who had left. So the one guy, I don't know if you remember this, but when this situation first started, there was a 15-minute long video that a guy recorded in his truck as he was kind of heading up there, or maybe after, just as he'd arrived. And he was basically, it sounded like he was saying goodbye to his family. I mean, he sounded like he was ready to die in defense of this movement of the occupying of this particular wildlife reserve in Oregon. And he was one of the people who was arrested, but they got him after he had already, so he left, apparently, the reserve before the feds cracked down. Coincidence? I don't know. But he left the reserve, and then they went after him in Arizona. We'll tell you more about all of that, but we're going to go straight to your calls and thoughts. In fact, John is online in Carson City, Nevada. Now, John's the guy who called a couple of nights ago to let us know that, I think it was the Sunday night show, to let us know that you and your wife had actually gone and traveled from Nevada to the wildlife refuge where you met many of these people, John. And so thank you for calling in tonight. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Thanks. That's right. That characterizes my call. I think you've already touched on one of the key points. I think Darryl already did when the reports out that shots were fired. But as I comb over these reports, I cannot find a single person, either from law enforcement or from the Occupier movement, who has said that the occupiers fired any shots. So I'm pretty sure that they fired 0 shots. and that the FBI is trying to keep it vague so people will read things in and call this a shootout or a firefight.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's really a firefight if only one side is shooting.
Right. So you've obviously been paying close attention to this as you are someone who's gone to this location. Your thoughts on what has transpired in the last 24 hours with the feds rounding up not only the guys from the trip last night, but also going after people, at least one person, in a different location in Arizona.
I believe there were at least 3 people picked up who were arrested in other locations. The guy you were talking about may have turned himself into police when they put out a warrant on him.
Yeah.
They also arrested Pete Santilli, who has been doing round-the-clock YouTube reporting out of there. He has not been an occupier per se, although he's extremely sympathetic with them. He has not been staying at the Refuge. He's been staying in town at the same hotel we stayed at.
Interesting.
But and he has been doing incredible reporting. And frankly, if he wasn't arrested, he would be wreaking havoc with their story today as one of the most effective communicators on the scene.
Now, you had told, I think somebody had said last night, toward the very end of the show, we had heard that this Pete Santilli, who is sort of the only independent media who's really been making a splash down there, he was arrested at the hospital. Isn't that right?
Yes, he went in to see, because I'm guessing that was the hospital that Ryan Bundy was taken to, because I believe it was originally reported that he was shot, but maybe he was just hurt with shrapnel. So I assume that Santilli was down there trying to find out what was going on with Ryan Bundy, and they arrested him, and he has been charged with exactly the same charges as the Bundys.
And the charge in this case is conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer.
Yes. I believe that really that most of what they have on them comes down to what I call smack talk, and that is talk where people talk about shooting back at cops in self-defense. Okay, so there is a certain amount of that talk.
People do that
goes around. Excuse me.
So I said, people do that.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
Well, I mean, I would say like one of your friends, Christopher Cantwell, is notable for smack talk. There's people. So there has been documented talk by people there, probably LaVoy, Finicum, among others, who have said that they would shoot it out in self-defense with police if police pointed guns at them. So I believe that is most of what they have against the people they arrested. It's just talk, smack talk.
Yeah, so I find myself wondering, what is it that they're going after them for? I don't think there's yet an indictment that has been made available. I looked for one briefly. I was unable to find it. And obviously, whatever the federal indictment is against these guys would reveal more information about exactly what are they suggesting is the conspiracy to impede. And hopefully we'll learn more about that because, I mean, it seems that is it the fact that they were just simply there? Is it the smack talk? Is it that they were occupying this place so that therefore the federal agents couldn't go to work? Was that the impediment?
As I understand, the place was winterized and shut down. Much of the concern, as I saw,
well, they were planning to stay there for years. Apparently, is what they claimed.
I mean, you can't really claim that they're keeping somebody from going to work if the person wasn't going to go to work until March.
Well, if they're saying we're going to be here for years, then that I don't know. It seems like a flimsy case. Maybe John's correct in his speculation. Or worst case scenario, they had a confidential informant on the inside who was.
I'm sure they did.
Who was talking about some sort of violent action against the feds and managed to get people to agree to it. In which case, that would look pretty bad for them if that did occur. So we don't know what's going to happen here at this point, but we do know they've made, I think it's 8 arrests, and there's 1 dead body at this point. And there are still people in the wildlife reserve, by the way. This is another aspect to the story. The feds obviously want them out, and at this point now it sounds like they are hunkering down, and they're going to make a stand.
Oh, please don't let this be another Waco.
You can see live stream reports by one of the occupiers down there. His YouTube channel is Defend Your Base, and he's doing regular live stream reports of what's going on there. It sounds like there's at least one person who has left today, and there may be a trickle of other people leaving. It sounds like one of the guys left, got into town, and called back and said they will let you go if you leave now. They'll let you go free if you leave now and you have no felonies on your record. So some people may be.
Why would they let them? Why would they let the people that are occupying go when they've made 8 other arrests of everyone else who's left?
Well, I can't explain that to you.
No, so we never know who the confidential informants are at this point in the game. There's a chance that whoever that person is that left and then called back later could have been one of the confidential informants, like, yeah, everybody, just go ahead and take off. You guys will be just fine. And then they're waiting for everybody else to leave so they can pick them off as they're driving away. Because what the feds obviously don't want to do
is storm the place.
Is storm the place and have a head-on confrontation against men and women who are at this point ready to die and are hunkered down, ready for a fight. They know something's going to come because something already did come against some of their friends.
Right. When you talk about ancient battles, people didn't die on the front lines fighting each other with shields and swords. They died when they turned and ran and then got chased after in a rout.
Stand by, John. It sounded like you had more to say. If you want to share that, stand by. We'll come back to you, and you can share your thoughts with us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. The Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve thing continues to develop, and we'll follow it. It's Free Talk Live.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. You can buy them through expresscoin.com with a check or money order. There are other ways to get Bitcoin, but that's fast, safe, and easy. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
Dr. Joe Wallach is not your typical doctor. Both a veterinarian and naturopathic physician, Dr. Wallach asked, why does America spend more money on health care by far and yet ranks 50th in health and longevity worldwide? The doctor believes that people should be empowered with a basic understanding of nutrition, then take charge of their life to attain optimal health and longevity through nutrition, not by toxic prescription drugs that lead to side effects, requiring more toxic prescription drugs. Talk about being dependent on drug companies, to our own destruction no less. This is clearly a deadly recipe. Doc Wallach's message is resonating with an increasing number of Americans who are waking up to all the government and big pharma manipulation of our healthcare system. I like what Doc Wallach is saying and doing to enlighten people and have joined forces to help this tireless crusader spread his message. Visit gcnminerals.com and listen to Dr. Wallach's Deadly Recipes lecture. It makes a lot of sense, and I invite you to join the GCN Minerals team. Go to gcnminerals.com. That's gcnminerals.com.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live. Dial on in toll free. Share your thoughts with us. Can be on the Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve. The beginnings of what may be a wider crackdown. They've taken out what they perceive to be as the leaders of the organization. If you want to call it an organization, seems to be a loose-knit group of individuals who've come together for the same purpose, which is to occupy this federal land in protest. For those who might have lost sight of the original reason for this, it was in protest of the federal government putting men in prison because they set some brush fires on some property in an attempt to sort of control other fires, from what I understand. So anyway, that was ridiculous what they did to those poor guys, the Hammonds, and they're sitting in prison now on a 5-year sentence. So that's why these folks went to this land to protest in the first place, with the intention of ostensibly staying there for years. Well, the federal government wasn't going to let that fly, and it's now been a few weeks. It's been about 25 days, I think, at this point since
they moved in on January 2nd.
Yeah, and it's now the 27th as we're performing this program. And last night they swung in and snagged about 4 guys, I think it was, 4 or 5 people, as they were traveling from the wildlife refuge to a nearby town for some kind of meeting. So they managed to pick them off, and then they picked off a few others in various other locations. So they've yet to actually do a raid on the refuge itself, and it sounds like they certainly don't want to. They've now, obviously the people at the refuge have gotten word of what's happened, and they are now streaming live video, not quite around the clock, but pretty constantly. So they still have an internet connection, they still have power out there, and they are doing their best, I think, to inform people of their current status. So we'll follow up with all of that here. We've actually got John in Carson City, Nevada on the line with us. And we'll tell you more about the guy they actually shot last night, shot to death, apparently, in last night's arrests. But first, I do want you to know about how you can get some great business cards at an amazing price. 500 business cards from Vistaprint.com. You get them for just $9.99. Now, that's the starting price. You can always upgrade the quality, like go to a thicker stock or add a brilliant finish like metallic, spot gloss, or raised print. But one thing's for sure about Vistaprint, it's super easy to personalize your business cards. You can customize the text, colors, backsides, and more. And if you need more than just business cards, how about postcards, flyers, banners, apparel, and invitations? They've got it. Whatever you need for your small business, your home-based business, Vistaprint is the place to go. So whether you're just starting out with your business or you just need a reload on some business cards, go to Vistaprint.com. Use code FTL, like Free Talk Live. That's code FTL, and you'll get those 500 business cards starting at just $9.99. It's up to a 50% savings over regular site pricing, which is a fantastic deal. So go to Vistaprint.com, and don't forget to use code FTL. As we get back to John in Carson City, Nevada. John, you actually went there with your wife. You went to the Federal Wildlife Refuge in Oregon how long ago was it? Last week? When were you there?
It was actually 13 days ago right now.
Okay, and you said that when you were there were, a few dozen folks, maybe like 3 dozen people there?
I said 30 to 50. It was very difficult to tell because there are lots of buildings, and we have no idea what fraction of the people we saw. So they're
down 8 people at this point. 1 man is dead. There are 8 who have been arrested. I guess they're down 9. At this point. So there still may be as many as 2 dozen folks occupying this refuge. Were there children present?
I heard that last night I heard on the live feed that all of the children had left the premises. There is one pregnant woman there, as of last night.
And so we don't know what's going to happen here. Apparently, the federal government has told the people at the refuge that they need to leave, and rumor has it that they can leave without issue, but that's just a rumor from somebody who has allegedly left and then somehow contacted the refuge back to let them know, hey, you'll be fine if you just leave now. Of course, whether or not that's just it's just an excuse to draw them out. So
or if they were sitting there with a gun to their head when they said it, you don't know.
So they'll, it could be an excuse to draw them out, so they'll separate and be easier to pick off.
And that seems what they've been doing is waiting until somebody separates and then they pick them off.
That's what they've
done.
Because
there is about a week ago there was somebody that wound up getting briefly arrested for using one of the Park Service vehicles to go into town to buy some supplies. And he was cited for illegal use of federal property or something.
Sounds legit.
For using the wildlife vehicle.
So, and I also saw go ahead, John.
Let me point this out. Ammon Bundy is the leader there, and he was their prime target. And you can look at Pete Santilli's feed. On Thursday, Ammon Bundy went out and presented himself to the FBI at their camp at the airport, at their center at the airport. He went out there, presented himself to them. He had a plainclothes FBI agent on each side of him while he spoke with a negotiator over the phone. The negotiator declined to come out and speak to Ammon Bundy face to face. But there he was right on their doorstep where they could easily, if they had FBI guys on both sides of him, they could easily have taken him peacefully. So there was no need to, to take them in a road encounter.
Well, the conspiracy theory on this is that he was going to meet with some local sheriff that has become rather, like he's sort of agreeing with the occupiers. And
I believe that's totally true, and I believe that's well known. I believe that's what they said they were going there for. Yes.
Yeah, and that and it's difficult to know what the facts are in this case, but I tend to believe it is this what you say is true, and I believe what you say to be true is that he was in the hands of the FBI just a few days ago. Why would they change their tune? Well, because the political landscape is changing, which is to say that some local officials are beginning to say, you know what? This is bullcrap, and there's a lot of lies floating around, and at some point or another, those lies are going to come to light. One of the main lies being that that's gotten so many people whipped up is that these occupiers are messing with relics at the local location. But you saw with your own eyes that the boxes with relics still had dust on them; they were untouched.
So
that was my sister-in-law's report. Yeah.
Another conspiracy theory, John, is that Ammon Bundy is the confidential informant, that he is an undercover federal agent, and that he organized all this so the feds could take people down. What do you think about that one?
That seems absurd. I think the FBI is in a very precarious situation at this point where they have shot and killed a guy who was possibly unarmed, probably had his arms over his head, and no shots were fired by the occupiers. No shots have been fired by the occupiers anywhere, as far as I know. And I think that the FBI would like to engage. They would like to get some shots out of the occupiers who are still at the refuge center, the refuge. They'd like to get some shots out of them to round out their story, to prove how dangerous they are. So
well, yeah, all it takes is one person to shoot, and then it could be a total bloodbath at that point. And it may very well be the confidential informant who fires the first shot.
And remember, Ian, when this thing first started happening, I said they might even wait until one of the guys goes hunting, and he fired his weapon. Doesn't matter that he was, shooting at some food.
And if there's no video around, and I suspect there wasn't anything recorded last night, then it's going to be the Fed's word versus the dead guy.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the call, John. I appreciate the information here tonight. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. More about the guy who is now dead, the one of the several who've been arrested He's dead. We'll tell you about him.
Hey guys, Pat Matthews here to tell you all about the newest and best way to sell your products online. It's buysellmakeoffer.com, a brand new site to sell your stuff online. Your old golf club, sports equipment, tools, and yes, even your car. Forget about the other guys. Buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge you item fees. Go to the website now and sign up so that you can soon load all your stuff up to sell. This is not an auction site. Just use our resources along with Skype and videos to sell your items quickly and with no fees. Go right now to user-friendly buysellmakeoffer.com, where the first 30 days are on us.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
In Survivor Max 2, School Bites, Max must scavenge through a wasteland swarming with the undead. Desperate to find the medicine he needs, he discovers a community of survivors at his former school. Has he finally found the safe haven he's been looking for, or will he discover that school bites? Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, and read Chapter 1 at SurvivorMax.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that tenth of a calorie it takes to click on something. Facebook.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You may join us on the radio here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. More coming up about LaVoy Finicum. He's the Oregon occupier who is now occupying the ground. Maybe they buried him. I don't know. He's dead at this point. He died last night in a shooting. They have been claiming now that I saw a claim just a moment ago that they shot him 120 times.
Wow.
Now, again, there are also claims that he had his hands up before they shot him. But if no one recorded video, then it's going to be the claims of the occupiers versus the claims of the federal agents.
Well, the funny thing about gunfights, the way they tend to go, is that if people have guns out, somebody's liable to pull a trigger just by nerves or something. Once a gun is fired, then everybody starts shooting.
Right.
And oftentimes, many times, what happens is that only one side, in this case, usually the police, only one side, only the police have guns out because they're holding people, and then one of them shoots, and then the rest of them shoot, and then
they unload their clips. They reload, and then they unload that one.
Well, that has happened. Usually,
that's happened more than once.
Well, usually as they're putting another clip in, they're trying to figure out who's shooting, and they get. It's usually only one clip, but I wouldn't doubt for a second that they had enough agents on site to put 120 holes in this guy.
So if you want to join the conversation here, the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. And yes, you guys were incorrectly using the term clip. You think you mean magazine. The magazine is the thing that holds the bullets and goes into the gun. Let's go to your calls, though. You can bring up anything. You don't have to talk about the Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve situation, which continues to develop, by the way, because there are probably at least a couple dozen people that are still there, and now they appear to be preparing for an inevitable, or what they believe to be inevitable, assault by the federal government. Let's go, though, first to Joe, listening in Alabama. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Joe.
Yes, I just want to talk about something else, but since this was brought up, yesterday 6 policemen were fired for shooting 140 times 4 years ago and killing 2 unarmed people. I don't know if you saw that on the news. And
where was this?
In Cleveland.
Okay.
They shot, the car backfired, and so the policemen thought they were shooting at them.
Oh, geez.
From a backfired car, and they shot 140 times. The people went to court on it, and they were dismissed. And how that ever happened, being dismissed, is crazy. But they finally fired them yesterday, and it's listed under Cleveland cop shoots 2 unarmed people.
So they got fired after unnecessarily murdering a couple of people. That's the punishment.
Later, though, it took them 4 years.
No criminal charges, just a firing.
Right.
Well, what's important here is that that we look at this. What would it be like if the average person, somebody who has a concealed carry permit, shot a couple of people because their car backfired? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
That's the yardstick that we should use to measure, by which to measure police action. What if normal people that are not imbued with the glorious power of the state, that do not have shiny little pieces of metal on their chest, that are not glorious saviors, if normal people do it, what would it be like? Because at that point, then we can see, turns out being scared isn't an excuse.
If a normal person fired one shot, there would be repercussions.
Yeah,
sure. It's illegal to fire a gun.
6 of them fired one shot each, which would be 6 shots, there would be repercussions. These police fired a total of 147 shots.
Give or take.
Exactly. Michael, his last name is spelled Brelo. He fired 40 times himself.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got to reload a couple times to do that.
Yeah.
And he was let go of voluntary manslaughter. And he was just found innocent last year, but he ended up getting fired. You would have thought he'd been, and he probably was on unpaid leave, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard, is paying somebody not come to work.
You mean he was on paid leave?
Right, paid leave.
That's pretty common.
And that's crazy, just crazy. But what I called about is I try and keep up with Keene on the Free State Project, and I noticed you and Darryl went and in front of a legislative committee on people going to jury duty. And my understanding, they were trying to make it read some type of law or something.
The Constitution. There was a proposal to...
I was not at that hearing.
Right. He's referring to a video wherein there is both you and I appearing in front of various different committees. You actually only appear in front of one committee in the video, but you're in the beginning of the video, so it might appear as though you were there throughout. But the issue he's referring to is a proposed law, a proposed statute that would mandate that all jury attendees, people who might be selected for a jury, would have to read the New Hampshire Constitution. And I actually argued against that for the most part, because I think that it would whittle down the jury pool to hardly anyone at all that would be qualified. And if they would have to then, because most of the people walking into a jury selection have not read the Constitution. Right. So if they then are told, well, you need to read the Constitution so you can be on the jury, then that's like busy work, and they're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to absorb what it is that they've read. Even if you test them on it, it's still not going to be something they value. It's like a forced education thing, and I didn't like being forced to learn things in school, and this would be no different.
I would say that I've read most of the New Hampshire Constitution. I've not read every single word of some of the boring stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, if you're going to make some jurors read something from the Constitution, limit it to the Bill of Rights. But I still think that even in that case, it would be a busy work kind of thing, and it would be looked down upon by those potential jurors. I understand.
When are they wanting to read it? Before they come? Or
it's not clear.
Are they doing homework beforehand? Or are they doing it while they're waiting to be called? Because that's not going to be an easy task.
No, it would not.
Are they getting paid to do that, or are they going to have to take a test after? Because when I was in school, I acted a lot of times like I was reading something. I didn't read nothing.
Yep, exactly. And can they just swear that they've read the Constitution? In which case, that would bypass a lot of the frustration, but it wouldn't accomplish what the author of the legislation wanted to accomplish. And no, Joe, we did not have details as far as when they would have had to have read said Constitution, but it would seem like that most of them have not read it at all. So therefore, if they were immediately disqualified because of that, you'd have no one being able to be selected for a jury. So it would make sense in this crazy proposal for them to have to read it there at the courthouse. But even then, that's still a ridiculous thing to ask a juror to do. And it would just create resentment in the juror's mind towards probably the things they were reading. I don't think that's the right way to approach things at all. If we're gonna have people read something in their jury duty, it should be the information about jury nullification. But even then, I wouldn't require it.
Right. What's the chance of that passing?
I doubt it will
I'd
pass.
say somewhere between slim and none.
Good, okay.
Hey,
thanks so kindly. Have
Joe,
a blessed day.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your call tonight. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And that was actually proposed by a listener of ours and a Free Talk Live supporter and a Free State Project early mover, Mike Sylvia, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And we never
representative.
A state representative. We never really had a chance to talk to Mike and ask him, what was his intention behind this? Did he really want this to be the case? Because I understand, the idea of you want jurors to know their rights, you want jurors to know the Constitution. I understand why you'd want that, but I don't think that was the right way to go about doing it.
I agree.
Anyway, you can share your thoughts with us. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Let's talk about the LaVoy Finicum. This is the guy who was shot to death yesterday evening just outside, apparently, of the Malheur National Wildlife Preserve. Now, this story coming from rawstory.com.
We got an update here. According to this, the FBI has ordered media to leave that location.
I have that story as well, so we'll get into that. The Oregon militant who gained fame for conducting a TV interview from beneath the blue tarp was shot and killed by law enforcement officers. The Arizona rancher, who was caring for 11 foster children with his wife, vowed at the start of the occupation that he was willing to die for his interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. And apparently, he did. We'll tell you more about him.
Perhaps with his hands up and while still being shot on the ground. Those are the reports.
Those are the allegations. We've yet to see the government's side of the story or any kind of video evidence that might be objective in this case. 855-450-FREE is our toll-free number. If you want to weigh in, you're welcome to do that. You can also bring up anything. 855-450-3733. It's Free Talk Live.
If you're not a smoker, please cover your ears, because the following incredible free money-saving offer is not for you. The makers of Occupiers revolutionary e-cigarette are now giving away free starter kits to all smokers who call in the next 10 minutes. Valued at $99, these starter kits are available for free, but only while supplies last. To guarantee your free kit, simply call in the next 10 minutes. 1-800-691-5458. The advanced O2 Pure design creates a pleasant vapor. There's no foul-smelling smoke and no nasty tar. So you can enjoy the nicotine you love whenever and wherever you are. Even better, you could also save yourself a ton of money, hundreds of dollars a month with O2 Pure. Again, free starter kits are now available to any smoker who calls in the next 10 minutes. This is a radio-only offer, not available in stores. So call now for your free kit. 1-800-691-5458. 1-800-691-5458. 1-800-691-5458.
Hi, this is Sophie Winnick, longtime distributor and user of Youngevity products. In the last few years, my family went through a crisis. Everything else in my life, including my business, had to be put on the back burner. Thankfully, life is getting back to normal now. But the one thing I never had to worry about was my business and my monthly commission. I've been a distributor for Youngevity for over 17 years, since before it was Youngevity. And I've got to say, the most amazing thing about this company is the people. While my family was in crisis, other distributors stepped in and helped my customers, simply because that's what Youngevity people do, even for people they don't know. For me, it has never been about getting rich. It was about a product I could stand behind, a company I could count on, and a monthly commission check that has never, not once, been late in 17 years. Youngevity is truly a business for everyone, even people who have too much to do. I'm Sophie Winnick. I'm just like you. I have a real life, real ups and downs, but I know I will always have Youngevity.
Are you about to meet the media? If you're about to be interviewed, do their homework for them. Know this about the person who will interview you. He or she is busy, so expect minimal, if any, preparation. He or she doesn't know as much about your topic as you do. He or she isn't as concerned as you are about getting your message out, so you need to take responsibility. Provide a biography and fact sheet, photographs, or other materials that tell your story. Reporters won't be put off if you supply frequently asked questions. Remember, Public Speaking 101, at the end of the speech, what's the one thing you want them to remember? You can download the document I supply to reporters who interview me and squirm through a video that demonstrates how not to conduct your media interview at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. Following sharp increases yesterday, in early trading on Wednesday, gold is $2 lower at $1,118 per ounce. Silver is down 3 cents at $14.54 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $395 US. We have plenty of new 2016 Silver American Eagles in stock. Get yours online at rrbi.co or give us a call at 800-874-9760.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Joining you in the studio tonight, by the way, it's Ian here.
And Mark.
And Darryl.
Once again, you can join us on Skype. Our Skype username, LRN.FM. Your comments welcome on the Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve. What is happening there with, there's still some occupiers. There's still maybe a couple dozen folks there. We'll tell you what the latest is. Apparently, the federal government has set up checkpoints surrounding the preserve, and they are, according to a report at KATU.com, they are going to be checking people who attempt to go through those checkpoints. They will be demanding that they submit to a search. And according to the story here, the checkpoints came out of an abundance of caution. Authorities arrested the leaders of the small group, blah, 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 as we already know. The FBI said Wednesday anyone leaving the refuge will have to show identification and submit to a vehicle search. Now, I don't know how
leave.
Yeah, I don't know how legal that is. How is it that if you have a right to privacy or whatever, that you'd have to submit to a vehicle search by the federal government?
If they're trespassing, then at that point, they're committing at the very least a misdemeanor, and so the rights. It's reasonable that they're trespassing, right?
Is it a trespass to go to a federal property and then leave it?
I don't know the answer to that, but popping open the doors of the. At this point, it is reasonable to assume that everybody who's leaving there has been in these buildings. This is just my understanding of it. I could be wrong, and please call in and correct me at 855-450-3733. But it would be reasonable for a law enforcement officer to presume that anybody leaving that area has been inside, burglarized property. I mean, something has to have been.
You're assuming that it's burglary to go into a federal building that is vacant on a federal park that apparently people have the right to use.
I am assuming that.
If someone broke into that building, it was only one person. It wasn't the entire group of them.
Yeah, but if I go, Ian, if the three of us go to the house next door and you bust open the door and we three go in, which ones of us are burglars?
Well, I mean, I can see where you're coming from on that, but the house next door is private property.
By the way, you have to take something for it to be burglary.
The house next door is private property. We're talking about federal land.
I understand that. The federal government sees its property as its own.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. The FBI claims, apparently, according to KATU.com, that only ranchers who live in the area that surrounds the preserve will be allowed to pass the checkpoints. Now, does that mean...
What? So they're telling everybody, you have to leave, but if you don't live within an area where we can basically throw a rock onto your property, we're not letting you leave.
Well, no, I think now if you read between the lines here, and it's not clear, so I'm speculating a little bit, if they're searching and stopping every vehicle and they're going to let the ranchers pass the checkpoints, doesn't that suggest that everyone else will be arrested?
It could be.
Or killed.
Well, they're probably not going to shoot everyone that comes out of there.
Maybe what pass means. Remember, you're reading someone's a report
of what the feds said.
Right. Yes. Interpretation of what the feds have said.
I'm saying I'm speculating.
So it could just as easily mean that the ones that can travel in this area are the ones that have business in this area.
Yeah.
And they, law enforcement does this stuff on a relatively regular basis. Whenever there's some kind of emergency, no, you can't come through here. You can talk all you want, but you can't come through. I mean, I, as a firefighter, sometimes stop motor vehicles from passing down state roads that normally they would have the right to pass down because there's a flaming wreck in front of them and they aren't allowed to go. And they can huff and gruff and do all they want, but they're not going to go.
LaVoy Finicum is the man who is now dead, one of the occupiers who died last night from gunshot wounds allegedly delivered to him by federal agents. The Arizona rancher, according to rawstory.com, was caring for 11 foster children with his wife. He vowed at the
Sounds like a terrible man, right?
He vowed at the start of the occupation that he was willing to die for his interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. Finicum said in a widely viewed TV interview with a rifle on his lap, quote, "I've been raised in the country all my life. I love dearly to feel the wind on my face, to see the sun rise, to see the moon. I have no intention of spending any of my days in a concrete box." And so there is apparently an interview here with him that MSNBC conducted. Whether we'll be able to share that with you or not, we'll find out. But first, let's go to Will, listening in Cincinnati. There's a lot to talk about here, including the FBI apparently directing the media to leave the area. Now, that's usually not a good sign when they're trying to clear the media out, because that would mean that there would be no accountability for what happens next. But let's go to Will in Cincinnati. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Hey, you're on the air.
Great. Hey, so I'm out here in Cincinnati, where Mr. Santilli's from, and our local media, as far as the radio is concerned, they're saying he wanted to work for them, and they couldn't hire him because he was on the terrorist watch list.
This is Pete Santilli, who is the independent journalist who was apparently arrested along with several others from the wildlife refuge last night. He was not with the group that was arrested, but they arrested him outside of the hospital.
Correct. We're talking about the same person.
Yeah, Pete Santilli.
So what I'm telling you is that they're painting him out to be this extremist and all that. I've listened to the show. I mean, we know he's not a terrorist. But what I'm saying is, it's like it's game on, a full blitz. They're using everything they got at this point, guys. You know what I mean? It's they're going for broke, because for them to be painting him out to be a terrorist, obviously, then we're all next going to be labeled terrorists, and
Well, the federal government has labeled people who believe in the Constitution terrorists on more than one occasion.
And that's part of it, because they're even sitting there having rants for about 5 to 15 minutes, just blasting on the Constitution as if that's something funny to be doing. That's actually part of why I called to
So who's ranting on the Constitution?
I'm talking about on 700 WLW, on the big one, Clear Channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're just like, the Constitution. You're talking about things that don't even. Why are we talking about this? This isn't relevant anymore, and just absolutely scoffing. And I'm sitting here having to listen to it. And, I can't bring it up. I can't talk about this at work. I'll lose my freaking job. You know what I mean? And, it's just. It's
frustrating.
Yep, they're probably right. The Constitution isn't relevant anymore. But
I mean, it is pretty much a dead letter at this point. Although I understand why that's frustrating.
Right,
to people.
It's the rules of the game. It's just that they don't follow the rules of the game anymore.
Right.
They've not followed the rules of the game for so long.
On my lifetime.
That they, that at this point it's a joke that they don't follow the rules of the game.
It would be akin to trying to enforce the original rules of football in the upcoming Super Bowl.
Yep.
And saying, you're not following the rules. Well, the rules have been changed so broadly over the last 100 and some odd years to where it's not even recognizable.
Yeah, but the rules, at least in football, are written down when you're talking about constitutional law and even statutes. You don't even know what the rules are because there are A, so many of them, and B, they interpret them any way they want.
Yes.
Will, was there more you wanted to share? Go ahead.
You know what? I'll leave you with this. I guess I think it was Orwell that said it. I guess he said it. The time will come when it'll be the duty of intelligent men to restate the obvious, and I believe we're there, gentlemen.
Yeah,
thanks for the call, Will. I appreciate it.
Truth is treason in the empire of lies. I mean, I don't know what to say at this point. It to some extent, it just feels like it's too far gone.
Well, yeah, there's no hope for the federal government. I mean, I think anybody on this show would agree with that statement. A lot of people in the United States still seem to think they can save the federal government by voting for some presidential candidate who's going to bring some new kind of change, because Barack Obama's change didn't work out.
There
apparently.
are 4.2 million federal employees. You get to vote for 5 of them. And you think that you're going to have some kind of effect on this organization. And that's it.
No, doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
But if you want to have an
voting
effect,
is mathematically insignificant,
at the
and
federal
the federal
level
government is claims to be rulers of the world. I don't know what's going to stop them. It seems like they have to spin themselves into insolvency.
So a solution for those who actually care about freedom and liberty is, of course, to join the Free State Project, which is at 98% of its goal of 20,000 people who love the ideas of liberty, who are willing to do something about it. Now, I'm not talking about take over some federal property with guns. I understand why those folks did that.
Well, I would also point out that did, from what we can tell, today it did nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't support that tactic. I understand why they did it. I don't think they're wrong for doing it.
Yep.
I think they're within their rights to occupy public land like that. I just wouldn't do it myself. I don't think it's going to be an effective tactic. And as we've seen now, one person is dead, and there are still a couple dozen more who are inside this wildlife refuge. And we don't know what's going to happen to them if they leave. We know the media has apparently been ordered to leave. So we don't know what's going to happen to them if they stay. But it's probably not going to be good any way you slice it. It's Free Talk Live.
As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
Free Talk Live has partnered with Amazon, the largest internet retailer. Imagine a department store category, and Amazon has it. Books, electronics, office products, furniture, jewelry, automotive, toys, clothing, sporting goods, and dozens of other categories. Now you can shop and support Free Talk Live by entering Amazon through our website. Go to shop.freetalklive.com, and Amazon will send us a portion of your purchase. You're going to do the shopping anyway, so remember to enter through our site at shop.freetalklive.com. That's shop.freetalklive.com. Are you an experienced Uber or Lyft driver with excellent ratings? If so, then you're ready to upgrade to Arcade City. Arcade City is a ride-sharing app built by drivers for drivers. It's more decentralized than Uber and Lyft. With Arcade City, you keep all of what you earn. Sign up now to drive for Arcade City at arcade.freetalklive.com. That's arcade.freetalklive.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, January 27th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.50 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,120 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $398. Antiwar.com reports influential Iraqi member of parliament and Badr Brigade leader Hadi Amiri on Tuesday declared U.S. airstrikes against the Islamic State to have been a failure, saying they'd killed some of the Islamic State's figures, but that the group remains large, flush with cash, and in a state of high morale. Amiri said, "Today, the Islamic State is a state. It has command centers. Their locations are known. Their logistics are known," adding that the U.S. is not attacking the Islamic State sites and is subsequently not doing major harm to the continued control of much of Iraq and Syria by the Islamic State. Amiri also faulted U.S. arming schemes for moderate Syrian rebels, saying this was a big source of weapons for the Islamic State and that what few moderate factions even exist in Syria are so weak that the Islamic State is just taking the arms away from them. The Badr Brigade is among the largest of the Shiite militias fighting against the Islamic State in Iraq, and this has made Amiri hugely influential among the nation's Shiite majority. While he hasn't been as overtly hostile to U.S. deployments as some other militias, he has been very critical of U.S. tactics. If you're fed up with the government running every aspect of your life, but you're not listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet, what's wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen, or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. UPI reports Concepcion Picciotto, who kept a peace vigil against nuclear weapons outside the White House for nearly 3.5 decades, believed to be the longest protest in U.S. history, died this week at a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C. Picciotto recently suffered a fall, but the cause of her death Monday was not immediately known. Concepcion, known as Connie to many, was believed to be around 80 years old. She began her anti-nuclear proliferation vigil outside the presidential residence in August 1981, just 6 months into Ronald Reagan's administration. But the protest, known as the White House Peace Vigil, was actually started 2 months earlier by activist William Thomas. After she met Thomas, she was a regular resident in Lafayette Park on Pennsylvania Avenue, across the street from the north lawn of the White House. Various other activists joined and departed the vigil over the 35-year span, but Picciotto was the only one who remained as a permanent fixture. Between August 1981 and January of this year, more than 12,500 consecutive days of protest under her belt, it's believed Picciotto's was the longest-running political protest in American history. Over the years, various signage had accompanied her makeshift residence near Lafayette Park. One said, "Live by the bomb, die by the bomb." Another said, "War is not the answer." Advocates and supporters colloquially referred to her post outside the White House as 1601 Pennsylvania Avenue. For virtually the entire protest, maintaining the vigil became a game of cat and mouse. According to rules by the National Park Service, vigils cannot be left unattended, even for a brief moment. If they are, they can be removed by authorities. In 2013, the display was immediately but temporarily taken down by officers when the young activists stationed there left their post. In the end, Picciotto's presence on Pennsylvania Avenue outlasted the entire administration of 4 American presidents and nearly a fifth. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Ammon Bundy, the purported leader of an occupation at a wildlife refuge in Oregon, and several of his companions were arrested by federal authorities Tuesday evening. A law enforcement source told CNN that shots were fired during a parking stop where Ammon Bundy and 7 others were arrested, though it was not clear who opened fire first. LaVoy Finicum, who acted as the group's spokesman, was killed by police during the incident. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
According to a study released Thursday by the Princeton University Department of Biology, this local 2-year-old woodland chipmunk has crafted a far more secure and dependable plan for the future than 8 out of 10 Americans. Reporters spoke to citizens to get their view on the study.
Clearly, this chipmunk is pretty impressive. I mean, he wakes up every morning and says, "I need to collect acorns and berries for the winter." He sets goals for himself and he gets it done.
If he has to make a burrow in a tree stump, that's exactly what he does. He doesn't pause and have a snack and lay around for a few hours.
Out of nearly 40 separate interviews with Americans, 33 told reporters they were very impressed by the chipmunk's continued display of foresight, personal responsibility, and pragmatic decision-making when considering his own future.
He's preparing for winter, he's building a home, and he's trying to get enough nutrients to make it throughout the rest of the day. All this while being worried about maybe getting eaten by a wolf or an owl or something. Earlier this week, the electricity went off in my home because I forgot to pay my bill. It's the second time this year.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. And you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Pretty breaking news here from the Ammon Bundy situation with, of course, if you've been paying attention to the news over the last month, you know that there are a group of protesters occupying the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in Oregon. And they've been there for pretty much the entire month. They started the occupation on the 2nd, and so it's been a few weeks now. And as of last night, there were some arrests that were made. They arrested Ammon Bundy, who was ostensibly the ringleader of this group, and his brother. So they've targeted the people that they believe to be the leaders, but yet there are still people. They made 8 arrests within the last 24 hours. They shot and killed 1 guy. And there are still probably at least a couple dozen people who are occupying the refuge. There's now a story coming out of KATU.com that through his attorney, Ammon Bundy, is asking the remaining occupiers to stand down. By the way, with you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Mark.
And Darryl.
Ammon Bundy, through his attorney earlier today, asked the remaining occupiers at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge to stand down and go home. Bundy, the leader of the occupiers, and 7 others were arrested Tuesday night near Burns. One of the occupiers, LaVoy Finicum, was shot and killed during the confrontation. Bundy and the others were taken to Portland and booked in the Multnomah County Jail and made their first appearance in federal court on felony charges. By the way, the charges, I do have the description. We'll give you the detail on exactly what the charges are here in a moment and how much time they're facing in prison. Quote, I'm asking the federal government to allow the people at the refuge to go home without being prosecuted, unquote, said Bundy through his attorney Mike Arnold, who stood outside the court to read the statement, continuing saying, quote, those remaining at the refuge, I love you. Let us take this fight from here. Please stand down. Please stand down. Go home and hug your families. This fight is ours for now in the courts. Please go home. Now, the fight in the courts is only going to be against the charges they're facing.
Correct.
So whatever it is that they're going to be fighting in the courts isn't going to end the federal occupation of the wildlife refuge. It's not going to get the land back from the farmers that it's been stolen from over the years. Which
they could say that excuse me. They could say that they're occupying. That this wasn't burglary or whatever because they were only going in lands that were part of the farmers in the first place and that kind of thing. They could dispute ownership, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they're not going to be able to do that in this court trial. All they're going to dispute is whether or not they are guilty of Section 372 of 18 U.S. Code, which is conspiracy
the
to
judge, as soon as they say, but Your Honor, there's blah, 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 case law, irrelevant.
Well,
if you mention that again, you will be arrested for contempt. But Your Honor, arrest that man for contempt of court.
They can't. They really. I didn't get to hear what the charge was there, Ian. You were going to say it, but
I mentioned it earlier. It's conspiracy to impede a federal officer.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's all they're dealing with in the courts. Ammon's making it sound like this is some sort of thing that's going to be hashed out in the courts. And don't worry, go home. This is all done. Go home, love your families. We're going to fight this out in the courts. But if the reason they went to the wildlife refuge in the first place was to stand against the federal government occupying farmers' land that they've been stealing from them over decades, none of that's going to get hashed out in the court. That's not even going to be talked about during these court trials. I mean, I understand why he's telling people to go home. If he's not a confidential informant, as one of our listeners had suggested off the air.
The statement that you read, basically, to me, it sounds like the statement that would be made by a hostage.
Well, he effectively is.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if he cares about those folks, then yeah, he's telling them to go home in the hopes that they can get home without catching criminal charges themselves. Obviously, he's not
catching a bullet.
Yeah, and so, I can understand why he wants this to end, because he knows that these feds are willing to shoot and kill people at this point. I mean, he should have known that in the beginning. And, of course, many of the people at the actual refuge are going to respond in different ways. Earlier, the handful of remaining armed occupiers, now KATU is claiming it's a handful. According to our listener, there were at least a few dozen folks there as of two weeks ago, so we don't know yet how many are remaining. They tried to convince more people to join them via a YouTube live stream and told any would-be occupiers that if the federal authorities, quote, stop you from getting here, kill them, unquote.
Well, that seems pretty unwise.
Well, okay, so you're dealing with different kinds of people here, right? You've got the leader who is now in federal custody in Portland, and he's saying, let my people go. Hey, guys, try to get home, get out of there while you still can. But then you got somebody who's yelling into a camera, if they stop you from getting here, kill them. So you've got the full range of people here, all the way from the crazies who are ready to die in a hail of gunfire to the people who are probably, well, if they're smart, they've already left to try to get out of this situation where inevitably,
if you're gonna do a siege situation, I mean, if you're gonna be under siege, I'm thinking that some cabins in the woods, not your best scenario. There's got to be something better to occupy and have them come get you. Now, I had read something, it's been some weeks, but that some kind of armed standoff had gone on in Texas for like over 10 years. And we never really heard anything about it because, well, apparently the feds didn't bring any gunmen to the party.
Yeah, I heard that headline, but I didn't really look into it. A federal judge did order the 7 defendants in Portland to stay in federal custody, so there's no bail. He ruled there's a risk they wouldn't show up in court, and those under arrest pose a danger to the community, ostensibly because of the occupation at the refuge. Because it continues. None of the 7 defendants entered a plea on the charge of impeding federal wildlife officers from doing their job.
So I don't think he should keep them because they may not show up for trial. I mean, that's what you have police for, to go get somebody who didn't show up for trial, and then that's a new charge. But I have to say that in this circumstance, I can see why a judge wouldn't post bail, because it's still happening, right? Like any one of these people could say, you know what, I got to go back and stand with my friends. And
right, they could decide that they're going to go ahead and make an actual stand this time and go down firing.
Right, in most cases, about 90% of the cases, I think that county jail is used as a punishment for crimes when it should be just to keep people who are dangerous until they've had a fair trial. You shouldn't be incarcerated until it's still time for you to be punished. But every once in a while, when I think it's done properly, I'm willing to pop in and say that I think it's been done properly in this circumstance. Until it's over, I think it's fair.
Defense attorneys argued that none under arrest thus far have significant criminal records, but the judge agreed with the prosecutors that all should remain in custody until a detention hearing, which is scheduled for this Friday. So that's some of the breaking news is that Ammon Bundy has asked the remaining occupiers to stand down, while someone on a YouTube live stream told other people to come join them and to, in point of fact, kill the federal government agents if they tried to stop them, which they will because they are occupying now the roads that lead to the National Wildlife Refuge. So there are checkpoints that are set up surrounding the entire place.
I'm not going to say that whoever made the statement on the YouTube video is, in fact, an agent provocateur, but they sure as heck sound like one.
Yeah,
it also is going to give cover to, when they do these checkpoints, there's been times of war and that sort of thing where people just get shot up driving up to a checkpoint. So if for whatever reason somebody gets trigger happy at this checkpoint, one of these federal agents, and somebody gets killed, well, they have previous cover from perhaps an agent provocateur to make it look like, oh, yeah, it's just fine if they do that. Remember, they're scared.
So our toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. The toll-free number 855-450-3733. Here's the actual criminal code they're being charged with. Conspiracy to impede or injure officer. If two or more persons in any state, territory, possession, or district conspire to prevent by force, intimidation, or threat any person from accepting or holding any office, trust, or place of confidence under the United States, or from discharging any duties thereof, or to induce by like means any officer of the United States to leave the place where his duties as an officer are required to be performed, or to injure him in his person or property on account of his lawful discharge of the duties of his office, or while engaged in the lawful discharge thereof, to injure his property so as to molest, interrupt, hinder, or impede him in the discharge of his official duties. Each of such persons shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 6 years. So they're looking at 6 years in prison.
Are you suffering with hearing loss? Are you sick of people constantly complaining that your TV is too loud? Are you tired of asking people to speak up? Would you like to hear more clearly, but you don't want to wear a hearing aid that makes you look old? Then you need to try Listen Clear, a life-changing breakthrough precisely designed by top audio engineers to fit your ear almost invisibly. And you can adjust Listen Clear to find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And right now you can try Listen Clear absolutely risk-free with free shipping. We'll even give you free batteries for life. So call now, 1-800-719-9349. Listen Clear is lightweight and completely hassle-free, and it's practically invisible. Call for your 100% risk-free home trial with free shipping and free batteries for life. For free information, call now, 1-800-719-9349. That's 1-800-719-9349. 1-800-719-9349.
Are you sneezing, coughing, and aching? Do you have a sore throat, a fever, or the sniffles? There's no reason to be sick this cold and flu season with immune system support from Supernatural Silver. Supernatural Silver can give your body the help it needs to fight off harmful pathogens without hurting beneficial gut flora and without leaving behind resistant bacteria. Antibiotics can damage good microflora and often leave behind bacteria which can cause problems later on. If you're sick of being sick, try Supernatural Silver. Supernatural Silver, the #1 choice of thousands for a safe and effective way to protect against the many diseases and illnesses that we are facing today. Go to supernaturalsilver.com, read our customer reviews, and see the life-changing results that people are having. That's supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. Use the promo code PROTECTED for 20% off your entire order. And like us on Facebook. Supernatural Silver.
Free Talk Live.
They're the mafia. They function like the mafia. They think like the mafia. They hire people who think like the mafia. The only difference is they put on a front that there's something legitimate and legal and valid about all of it.
Well, there's no Don in this particular mafia. The Don is the majority of people who went out and voted and then put their new Don in place. And sometimes the Dons change and sometimes they don't. Incumbents are very difficult to unseat, and but their henchmen stay in place the whole time. It's quite a sophisticated mob operation.
It is. Well, it's the mafia that is so successful and that has so brilliantly pulled the wool over people's eyes that they've actually gotten people to give them their children so the mafia can educate them into believing that they need the mafia.
Right. We have free indoctrination camps. Schools for you to send your kids to.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more.
It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and we've got some excerpts from the video feed. Defend Your Base is the YouTube channel, all one word. Defend Your Base is where there have been live streams coming from the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge over the last 24 hours. And I was just looking at one of the more recent streams. Actually, I guess it was live 8 hours ago, but it's one of the more recent ones on their channel. That is basically, it's just a kind of a picture of the sky, and you can see there's a caterpillar, an earth-moving kind of construction vehicle there. And they've been, I checked in on this earlier today, they've been moving earth around. They've been digging with this caterpillar throughout the day today.
Feds or the
I'm
other
sorry
people?
if I didn't make it clear. This is a video feed from the Malheur Federal Wildlife Reserve. The federal government is not feeding video that I know of. So these are the occupiers.
Okay, so the occupiers are using a caterpillar.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
They have a caterpillar, and they are doing something with it. They're moving quite a bit of dirt around. I don't know if they're building trenches or what exactly.
I can't imagine what else they would be doing.
Yeah.
Trench work would be a good choice in dealing with people who are shooting bullets.
So if you want to comment here, you can join us. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. You know, there's a movement in healthcare today full of people ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. Folks like you who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you should be part of it. Liberty Health Share is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty Health Share is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. You choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement and change healthcare for good by going to joinlhs.com. That's join LHS, like Liberty Health Share. Join LHS.com or call them toll free 800-722-8041. That's Liberty Health Share, 800-722-8041. I'm going to give you a couple excerpts from this video feed, which is mostly just, again, a shot of the sky, caterpillar arm. You can see it's moving around, doing some stuff here and there. Then there's a fairly large gentleman who leans into the camera on multiple occasions. This is a 26-minute long video And I've only gone through about half of it here, just kind of skipping through to try to find segments of something happening besides just a shot of the sky, basically. And so this guy will come in every now and then, and he'll make announcements like this one.
Still alive. Still waiting on my brothers. I know there's en route. How many? Where they're coming from, I'm not going to say.
Well, that's because there's probably federal government watching, and then
don't be
1 minute later, he comes back.
Afraid of those roadblocks. Drive up there and shoot them. They are dishonorable, not following their oath, not protecting American people. Good patriots fighting for our rights. They're the terrorists.
Ruh-roh.
So I do agree that they are terrorists. Like the federal government, all government agents that are, enforcing laws against peaceful people who have not harmed anyone else, who are threatening violence against us on a regular basis. That's terrorism. I mean, what the government does fits the definition of terrorism.
Every government, not just the U.S. government.
That's right, every government.
A government is an agency that, by its very nature, must initiate force against people. If somebody is scared, obeys the laws that don't have to do with harming people. If they obey these malum prohibitum laws because they're scared of the federal government, afraid of any government, then basically they fit the definition of a terrorist organization.
But the answer to terror is not to be terrorists, right? The answer to the violence of the state is not to do what they do, is not to lower yourself to their level. It's violence is their tool. It should not be.
If we have 10 dead FBI agents tomorrow, will you be any closer to more freedom?
No way. The FBI will just recruit 10 more.
Yeah.
They'll just recruit 10 more who will be even more, crazy and bloodthirsty because they want to. Whoever gets recruited to replace them will be ready to go. Will be ready to go against the people who went up against the dead FBI agents.
And let me read the dictionary definition of terrorism from Merriam-Webster's. The use of violent acts to frighten the people in an area as a way of trying to achieve a political goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
That's totally the government. Here's another excerpt from the video from Defend Your Base on YouTube.
You a militiaman? Come get some. It's what you've been training for, preparing for. We just happen to be the ones that had to step in it for you. Now we're here. We need you. We want you. We welcome you.
Now, I don't know, again, if this guy is I don't know why I'm hearing that audio still. I don't know if this guy is like an undercover agent and he's trying to roust up some violent militiamen to actually come down there and then get themselves arrested and get into a firefight.
I mean, it sounds crazy. I can't imagine the federal government being quite this dumb. The last thing they would want is, they're in checkpoints, static locations.
Mm-hmm.
You do not call the enemy to come shoot at you when you're in a static location. That is really bad strategy.
So you think he's legit? You think he's a legit militia guy who's demanding, asking his buddies to come join him? He seems to be.
If your goal was to kill federal agents, this would be a relatively easy way to do it. Now, I'm not saying what's going to happen to you shortly thereafter. Likely, your family will mourn you, but. They're in one location, and that means that they're, strategically they're at a disadvantage.
So I would say that there's really two possibilities with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's possibly a third, but I'm going to say there's two realistic possibilities with this guy. Either he is an agent provocateur, or he's someone that wants to encourage other people to do something that he is not willing to do himself.
Well, he's on the inside, and he appears to be staying there.
Right. He's on the inside and appears to be staying. He's encouraging people to shoot federal agents.
Well, I don't like his chances, period. He's going to prison at this. The words he said, as far as I'm concerned, sound
they're
a
threat for sure.
They sound like the words of a man who's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Right, but you're not hearing what I'm saying.
Yes, I am hearing what you're saying. Therefore, if this guy is if he's slightly rational, then he understands that he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life. Therefore, shooting back not much of a problem.
But Darryl's, but why not? Why wouldn't he go and actually do what he's advocating?
He needs more people. That's why. I mean,
how lonely is he?
Outnumbered.
Okay, so
any
if you've
outnumbered
got
army in history has looked for reserves.
But you've got one guy that drives up in a Toyota Corolla that starts firing on the checkpoint. That guy's outnumbered.
If you get 20 guys that roll up, shooting on checkpoints, then then he's
assuming that they all roll up at the same time.
Well, he's making it sound like he's got a group of people who's coming from who knows where and who knows when.
Right? Are they
Sons
coming?
of Anarchy.
Are they coming in a caravan? Or are they arriving when they arrive, and it could be 5 hours in between?
Well, he's not
times
saying.
That Toyota.
Yeah, we don't know, and he's not saying.
Look, man, his plan could work. I don't know what it would look. I mean, obviously, you're not going to see some kind of rolling revolution sweep over America, but one of these checkpoints gets. A couple of agents get picked off. Yeah, I think they'll fold up these checkpoints like a deck of cards.
I don't know, man.
I don't think so.
You don't know
I
how
could
the
be
government
wrong.
works. They'll just bring in more agents. Toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. 855-450-3733. They got equipment for that kind of stuff.
They've got bigger
Mark.
guns.
It's Free Talk Live.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's PROPUR USA.com or call 800-544-3533.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait on account. Now. Wait a minute.
Whoa.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. Ross Ulbricht was convicted in early 2015 of running the infamous Silk Road Underground Market. The Silk Road was a gift to humanity and helped reduce the harms brought on by drug prohibition. For this good deed, Ross has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, an appeal is Ross's only chance, and he needs your support. Please visit freeross.org, where you can contribute via various methods, including Bitcoin. Visit freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
Due to an upturn in the economy, Main Street Business Loans has pre-approved the release of millions of dollars in small business funding. Your business may already be pre-approved to receive up to $250,000. We've sent out millions of pre-approval letters. We see the economy growing, and our underwriters believe now is the time to invest in your business so you can grow faster and make more money. And we're prepared to give you up to $250,000 to do it. Your funds can be available in 5 days. There are no application fees, no annual fees, just quick access to up to $250,000. If your business did not receive your approval letter to get up to $250,000, Call Main Street Business Loans Approval Desk now.
800-430-4505. 800-430-4505. 800-430-4505. That's 800-430-4505.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. We will share more with you from what was an earlier live stream from the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge with one man exhorting into the camera that people need to come and join him. He indeed claims that some are coming to join him and further encourages them to kill any federal agents that stand in their way. And as we do know from news reports, there are federal agents who are blocking all of the roadways that lead to the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge, as there are multiple people still there. There are at least the two men who are on the camera, and one of the men does claim his wife is there with him as well. Some have said it's no more than a handful that are remaining, but it could be more than that. We don't know, and they certainly aren't dumb enough to reveal their numbers in video form. So we'll continue here with some excerpts from that video. I've been jumping through it and kind of marking the time codes where this guy leans into the camera. It's mostly just 26-minute long video from the channel Defend Your Base, mostly just of the sky and a Caterpillar device, a construction device. But every now and then, a man with a gun will lean in and say various different inflammatory things. We'll share that audio with you here as we continue. But first, let's go to the phones and to your calls and thoughts. It doesn't have to be about the wildlife refuge, but that certainly is on a lot of your minds. So go ahead, Gamma Blast in Chicago. You're on Free Talk Live with Ian, Mark, and Darryl.
All right, hey guys.
Hey.
So I got a question, and I can give you like a scenario maybe to clarify it. But just my main general question is, would you be willing to fight and possibly die to defend the Free State Project? If you guys actually got,
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
A vote for succession, and you proceeded to succeed, and the feds came in and said, no, we're not going to allow that. And
I'm a lover, not a fighter. That's my answer. Mark?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any point in fighting. Do you think that do you think New Hampshire would win against an organization that has intercontinental ballistic missiles, aircraft carriers, tanks, and everything else? If they use weapons to invade New Hampshire because it decides to secede, they have lost already. Picking up a weapon against them only causes you to share their fate.
Okay, what if you thought you could actually win? Let's say the way in the future the dollar collapses, the country's fractured, but it's still trying to grab onto the different parts and bring them back by force. So they're fighting on multiple fronts, and you actually thought you could, if everybody stood their ground and defended themselves, you could break it down for good.
I think,
and everybody would get to split apart and go their own separate ways and form their own little communities, whatever you want to call them. And
I think being a tank man type figure would send a much more powerful message.
So standing in front of the tanks like they did in Tiananmen Square, the one guy did.
That would send a much more powerful message, especially if it's just a handful of people. And then, either you run these people over that are holding no weapons and just standing there, or you back down. Either way, it's a much more powerful message than getting in a shootout.
Yeah, that's true. You're still throwing your body into the gears of the state in that case. You may not come out alive from that situation, but it's a more honorable.
And that would be agonizing to get run over by a tank.
Yeah, sure would.
It'd be agonizing to get shot as well.
If you want to know whether or not I'll pick up a gun and fight under any scenario, the answer is that I took an oath in front of my community that says that I would love, honor, and protect my wife. And I believe that goes to her children, too. I think that spreads over her progeny. So if I feel like my family is in danger, I believe that it is my responsibility before God and man to put my body in between whatever violence might occur and my family. Now, I may get together with some other men who feel the same way about their families and try if like say the community is being overrun by the Hun or something. If we got any kind of fantastic scenario here that you're referring to, so there is no situation under which I would pick up a weapon. It's just that I think that if you're going to pick up a weapon, you better A, have a really good plan, and B, have a chance of winning. And I don't think that at this point, no one showed me any opportunities like that.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, I'm trying to think of scenarios where you have a chance at winning. You're not just throwing your life away. You actually could repel the state agents, whatever you want to say, they're coming to.
I think that's a better fiction book. I think that's a better.
Sounds like a fantasy.
Yeah, that's
But the country can't break up eventually. It's never happened. The countries just splinter apart into several parts.
Every country will break apart. Every country will fractionalize.
Why is it so fantasy that this could not happen in 15 years or whatever?
I don't know the answer. I don't know precisely what's going to happen. But
there's a difference between a country fracturing, like what happened with the Soviet Union, to where the government just collapsed under its own weight, and taking up arms and killing your way to a fracture.
And it's also really important to point out in her work, Erica Chenoweth, Chenoweth, in her work, Civil Resistance, I believe is what it was called. She pointed out that looking at rebellions that have been successful throughout the 20th century, nonviolent rebellions were more successful than violent ones, and B, as time progressed, they became more successful throughout the 20th century. So that says to me two things: that A, nonviolent resistance is more successful than violent resistance, and B, that it is getting more successful all of the time. You'll note when the Soviet Union fell apart, you didn't see the different different Soviet states fighting against each other over power and that sort of thing. They just kept things together going on in their little spots.
Well, one of the reasons why Tank Man was so successful was because there was pictures of Tank Man, or at least a picture of,
there was video. I remember watching video when my stepmom was in the hospital.
Yeah, well, because of that is why he was more effective than otherwise he would have been, because he became a sort of worldwide icon of resistance or disobedience in that particular case. And now, of course, we have plenty of opportunities to capture video of the tyrannical state versus peaceful people. So I do agree with my co-host here that peace and peaceful responses are the best way to handle an aggressive state. Gamma Blast, thank you for your call here tonight. And, you said a handful of people, Darryl, but I think the more peaceful people that are refusing to cooperate and go on, go with what these people want, or to fight against the federal government, which in some cases is what they want. They want the fight so they have the excuse to crush you and exterminate you. But people refusing to fight, people refusing to obey, that puts the federal government in a very undesirable situation for them. They want you to either fight them or obey them. And if you don't do both, then they look really bad however it is they choose to react, because they could either choose to react by cracking down hard and killing you in a very violent, and then because of the internet and video, public manner, or backing down and leaving.
Right.
So you can share your thoughts here. Let's go to Nick, listening in Philly. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Nick.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
so you got a whole bunch of people who condemn the state, and you're doing peaceful, nonviolent resistance or civil disobedience and changing minds, and people are condemning the use of force. But you still have a segment of the population that are just absolute psychopaths and are willing to use force no matter what you think.
You mean who aren't with the federal government?
No. I'm saying that would be with a government of some sort.
Okay.
And if that scenario happened, what good would it matter how many people you convert, as long as there are a portion of the population that are willing to kill you and take your money?
There's always going to be someone willing to kill you and take your money.
Yeah, you're describing robbers, and we have a reasonably good system for dealing with robbers, and that's unarmed citizenry, right?
Yes, which my point, is that you can't really talk a violent predator out of your house.
Okay.
And that's
we
what
were
the state
talking
is.
about the state
Yeah,
earlier.
we're talking about this. So there's a difference
I'm talking
between
about the states all the time.
There's a difference between criminal actors. Some criminal actors wear, the clothing of governments, and some criminal actors don't. We're talking about the ones that do, and the legitimacy that they carry along with them. We can look at historically, humans give legitimacy to these organizations.
Right. If you want to continue, Nick, we can. Repelling an individual robber with violence is much more easy to accomplish. It's Free Talk Live.
Think you're fat? You might just be bloated. Find out by calling now for a free trial of New Biotics, the new breakthrough that flattens bloated bellies fast. For a free trial, call 1-800-965-1170.
I used to be plagued by potbelly and constant bloating. After taking New Biotics, my belly flattened and continues to get flatter. My sense of bloating and discomfort is gone.
If you've got a big belly, you might not be fat. You might just be bloated. New Biotics is scientifically formulated with natural ingredients to flatten bloated bellies fast by cleansing pounds of rotting food and toxic sludge from your body. It even combats periodic heartburn and acid reflux. So just think how much better you'll look and feel. Think you might be bloated? Call now for a free trial of New Biotics and see how much flatter it makes your belly. You might be surprised. But hurry, call now for details while these free trials last. 1-800-965-1170. That's 1-800-965-1170. 1-800-965-1170.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
You can listen to Free Talk Live on the radio, podcast, satellite, webcam, and our live streams. But did you know you can listen to Free Talk Live from any phone, anywhere? Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0308. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Listen Lines are airing the latest episode of Free Talk Live 24 hours a day, including our live shows. Call 213-493-0308. That's 213-493-0308. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Free Free Talk Live. More excerpts from one of the streaming videos that was streamed out live earlier today from the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge, with multiple armed men coming up to the camera and encouraging people who are watching to come and join them, and even to one of the men encourages them to shoot and kill any federal agents that attempt to get in their way. And as we know from news reports, there are federal agents blocking all of the roads in and out of the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge, where at least several people still remain, and they appear to have some construction equipment there, a big Caterpillar earth mover thing, where
it's a lot easier to dig a foxhole with a Caterpillar.
They're digging away. They're doing something there, and you can't really see what they're doing. The camera's sort of pointed up toward the sky. We'll give you some more of those excerpts here in just a few moments. With you in the studio tonight, you do have Ian.
And Mark.
And Darryl.
We did have someone a moment ago calling and asking us, well, would you guys be willing to fight against the federal government?
When will you pick up a weapon?
The three of us said no, that peace is the solution, that non-cooperation, non-violent resistance is the way to go. And that led to Nick calling in to liken the federal government to an individual robber. Would we defend against an individual robber? And Mark, you did say that you would defend against an individual robber who was trying to hurt your family or whatever.
If somebody's going to come to my house to steal a television, then I'm not going to – I don't intend to kill anybody over a television set. I don't think television sets are worth killing anybody over. But if – the lives of my family or my animals are somehow in danger, then that's an entirely different story.
And we do have Nick back with us in Philly. So, Nick, I think one of the points that we were trying to make a moment ago was that when it comes to an individual, the individual violent psychopath does not have the same aura of legitimacy around him or her as the federal government does. When the federal government does things to people, violence to people, many people will brush it off. Many people want the federal government to do violence to
people. There are all
people.
kinds of Democrats calling for the heads of these militia people, and they got one of them.
Yeah, so staying peaceful when you're up against the state is a completely different tactic than using violence against an individual aggressor.
Right, and let me add one thing real quick before Nick gives his thoughts. To sort of put another parallel, the Crips and the Bloods are a bunch of individual robbers, but all together. So they will protect one another. So if you go and decide, well, these Crips and these Bloods, they've done some really horrible things. They've broken into people's houses, and you just start picking off Crips and Bloods. Well, they're then going to gang up together and come after you. So I would say that it's not smart to just try picking off, individual members of the Crips and the Bloods either.
Go ahead, Nick.
And that's not at all what I'm suggesting. I'm saying that we currently have a problem where our neighbors have a religion where they believe that in their Bible it says that they have the right to rob us, steal our property, force us to do things, and kill us if we resist. And yes. I don't see how you're ever going to be able to convert them into seeing that they don't have a right to rob you. It would be like trying to convert Christians to Muslims.
That's one of the reasons why the Free State Project is so important, so we can actually gather people who understand what government is, who know that the government is violence, who know that the state is a terrible idea that justifies the violent aggression against peaceful people. Gather those people together into the same place so we can change that culture, so we can have liberty and the ideas of freedom become normal instead of the crazy loon on the side of the road, which I once was in Florida, waving a honk if you hate taxes sign. Instead of being alone, I have hundreds and soon thousands of people in the same area as me that will actually agree with what I'm saying. And when you get enough people agreeing with the ideas of liberty into other of these normal people's lives, whether it's in their churches, in their businesses, in their knitting clubs, or whatever it is that people do with their free time, then they're going to hear those ideas on a more consistent basis, and they'll be more
normalized.
Yeah, they'll be more likely to accept them. And when it feels more normal to support the ideas of liberty, you'll see the normals saying things like, oh yeah, I always thought that way.
And also what you'll see is that people who are firmly attached to their ideas that you were referring about, the tried and true status, there's a percentage of the population, even in New Hampshire, that's a tried and true status, and you can't convince them otherwise.
They're the bureaucrats.
There's always Florida. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
New
Florida,
York.
it's
New York's not
wonderful.
far.
Yeah, New York's not far, but it has crappy weather. Florida has beautiful weather and golf. Go the F down there, have a nice time, and the place is crawling with statists.
Nick, anything else you want to share?
I hear you. I just think that inevitably, if you did get enough people that were convinced that it was wrong to rob you, and you still had a segment of the population that were psychopaths in some kind of gang like the Bloods or Crips, that it would ultimately come down to self-defense to eliminate.
Well, if it's just a gang, then most people will understand using self-defense against a regular criminal gang. Most people would be totally fine with hearing that a member of or several members of the Bloods or the Crips were taken out by an innocent woman who they were trying to rob. That you don't have to persuade people about. But you do have to persuade them when those gang members are armed and have badges. Then all of a sudden, what you were saying, that religion kicks in. That religious belief about those badged members of a gang will completely override any sort of understanding that they are actually a gang acting like a gang, just like the Bloods and the Crips.
And that's one of the reasons that I think that political action inside the Free State Project is very important. Lots of people do not. But I think it's important because these people have their holy texts, as you've referred to them as, and the statists tend to follow the law as they interpret it, but as you can hone the law to be less interpretable as
changing their religious text, basically.
As you continue to say, look, you can't do this, then they tend to step down. And the beautiful thing about New Hampshire is your statist paradise is only 35 miles away. It's a small state. And you can always there is another United States state that is just 35 miles away or less.
And then Canada is not that far either.
It's much harder to immigrate there. Countries have made it difficult, but you could if you really, really wanted to. But it's not that hard.
You can go there without a visa for like 3 months.
Yeah, and work where?
You can't.
Most people have to work, but they can continue to work in New Hampshire, sell their house, go live in Vermont, or become a Vernazi, become a maniac, become an asshole. They can pick one of these places and still not have to deal mostly with the laws because they're like, I live where it's wonderful because I have lots of statism.
Hey, Nick, thanks for your call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. And I understand where Nick and some of the other callers are coming from. I remember being outside of New Hampshire. I remember what I was like when I was hosting this show from Florida, where I was one of the people who was advocating, as Chris Cantwell might these days, I was advocating things like defending yourself with violence against the state. I was thinking up scenarios. I was the one, buying, guns and body armor and things like that. I was that person. I was that guy who was, preparing for the final shootout with the federal government. I was living into that future until I found a future that was hopeful, which is the Free State Project, where there are actually people who care about freedom, who are coming together to do peaceful things together towards ending the idea of the state, towards having a totally free society in our lifetime. When you have people who agree with you on the ideas of liberty, and you generally don't have that in most places. We've had callers from Chicago, Philadelphia. I mean, these are not liberty-friendly places.
Even when we were in Sarasota, the most we had was a Libertarian Party meeting.
People.
Was it once a week or once a month?
Once a week.
Once a week, we'd meet at the Bennigan's and sit around and have their delicious Monte Cristos. And, chit-chat about...
Monte Cristo, that's that deep-fried peanut butter and jelly.
It's a deep-fried sandwich. This was like a club, as I recall it, but regardless.
So they put chips in the middle of it?
I have no idea. I never had one.
It was a wonderful sandwich. Regardless of that, they were,
there was no hope though. There was no hope.
No hope.
And
no
when you don't have hope, that's when you feel backed into a corner. And when you feel backed into a corner, like any cornered animal, you are going to probably be more likely to lash out at something that you feel is a threat to you. And that's why you
can see news stories of it all the time.
Sure.
You can see that guy that has been pushed to his limit by the local government, by the state government, finally snaps and goes into the city council meeting and shoots 3 of them in the face.
Or builds a killdozer and drives through the county property.
These people are the canaries in the coal mine. They're the ones that were, their emotions outstripped their logic on the situation. They just became unglued. Most of us just back down and say, whatever. You want me to write a check, you stinking parasites? Here's your check. Just leave me and my family alone. And finally, that's what we do. The people who are happy about it, they just wrote the check ahead of time. They're like whistling while they write the check because I've got all these wonderful government services. And, they're happy about it. But there's this small percentage of the population, they can't back down. And ultimately, those are the ones that you're going to see lashing out.
More excerpts coming up from the people who do feel cornered. They are there at the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge. There are still at least several people that you can see in this video. It's about a 26-minute video. We're just playing a few excerpts from it of their claims into the camera, their demands, their requests. And we'll continue. 855, 450 free. This is Free Talk Live. Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof form of money to the people, where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom and the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com.
Are you searching for your soulmate? Someone you can trust, who will never betray you or cooperate with the NSA? Stop searching. With EasyDNS, you found a keeper. EasyDNS does it all. Domain names, web hosting, and managed WordPress hosting. EasyDNS stands up for your internet freedom, and with servers in Canada, they do not cooperate with the NSA. Go to EasyDNS.com. You'll love their services or get a full refund. They guarantee it. And they accept Bitcoin. That's EasyDNS.com.
If you want to play online poker with Bitcoin, you need a site that's trustworthy and technically sound. The site managers of swcpoker.eu have proven their commitment to bringing you great gameplay from a site you can trust, swcpoker.eu. They have lots of new games too, including Chinese poker, and their Krill leaderboard is open right now. It's a beautiful site, easy to use with lots of players. Go on over to swcpoker.eu now and have some fun with your Bitcoin. swcpoker.eu. Did you know that you can listen to and watch Free Talk Live during our live shows 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cam at cam.freetalklive.com? Not only that, but you can also chat with other listeners at the same time. Do I need to mention that both the studio cam and chat room are totally free? Outside of Free Talk Live's live hours, you won't see a cam feed, but will hear audio from the Liberty Radio Network. So listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, January 27th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.50 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,120 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $398. Antiwar.com reports influential Iraqi member of parliament and Badr Brigade leader Hadi Amiri on Tuesday declared U.S. airstrikes against the Islamic State to have been a failure, saying they'd killed some of the Islamic State's figures, but that the group remains large, flush with cash, and in a state of high morale. Amiri said, "Today, the Islamic State is a state. It has command centers. Their locations are known. Their logistics are known," adding that the U.S. is not attacking the Islamic State sites and is subsequently not doing major harm to the continued control of much of Iraq and Syria by the Islamic State. Amiri also faulted U.S. arming schemes for moderate Syrian rebels, saying this was a big source of weapons for the Islamic State and that what few moderate factions even exist in Syria are so weak that the Islamic State is just taking the arms away from them. The Badr Brigade is among the largest of the Shiite militias fighting against the Islamic State in Iraq, and this has made Amiri hugely influential among the nation's Shiite majority. While he hasn't been as overtly hostile to U.S. deployments as some other militias, he has been very critical of U.S. tactics. If you're fed up with the government running every aspect of your life, but you're not listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet, what's wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen, or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. UPI reports Concepcion Picciotto, who kept a peace vigil against nuclear weapons outside the White House for nearly 3.5 decades, believed to be the longest protest in U.S. history, died this week at a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C. Picciotto recently suffered a fall, but the cause of her death Monday was not immediately known. Concepcion, known as Connie to many, was believed to be around 80 years old. She began her anti-nuclear proliferation vigil outside the presidential residence in August 1981, just 6 months into Ronald Reagan's administration. But the protest, known as the White House Peace Vigil, was actually started 2 months earlier by activist William Thomas. After she met Thomas, she was a regular resident in Lafayette Park on Pennsylvania Avenue, across the street from the north lawn of the White House. Various other activists joined and departed the vigil over the 35-year span, but Picciotto was the only one who remained as a permanent fixture. Between August 1981 and January of this year, more than 12,500 consecutive days of protest under her belt, it's believed Picciotto's was the longest-running political protest in American history. Over the years, various signage had accompanied her makeshift residence near Lafayette Park. One said, "Live by the bomb, die by the bomb." Another said, "War is not the answer." Advocates and supporters colloquially referred to her post outside the White House as 1601 Pennsylvania Avenue. For virtually the entire protest, maintaining the vigil became a game of cat and mouse. According to rules by the National Park Service, vigils cannot be left unattended, even for a brief moment. If they are, they can be removed by authorities. In 2013, the display was immediately but temporarily taken down by officers when the young activists stationed there left their post. In the end, Picciotto's presence on Pennsylvania Avenue outlasted the entire administration of 4 American presidents and nearly a fifth. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Ammon Bundy, the purported leader of an occupation at a wildlife refuge in Oregon, and several of his companions were arrested by federal authorities Tuesday evening. A law enforcement source told CNN that shots were fired during a parking stop where Ammon Bundy and 7 others were arrested, though it was not clear who opened fire first. LaVoy Finicum, who acted as the group's spokesman, was killed by police during the incident. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Following today's press conference in which NASA announced its continuing search for a planet capable of supporting NASA, researcher Dr. Kenneth Heiser sat down with Onion reporters to detail their ongoing mission to find a NASA habitable planet.
Our objective is to find a planet capable of nurturing not just life, but also a sustained interest in the exploration of the cosmos. Such a planet would need to have water and proximity to light and heat, but also life forms with even the vaguest understanding of the importance of astronomical exploration. Ultimately, this would need to be a planet with organisms that have a genuine interest in expanding the limits of their knowledge.
Heiser added that any planet capable of supporting NASA would need to be able to generate a steady stream of financing to meet the agency's $18 billion annual budget.
The important thing is we just need to be patient. There's a limitless number of planets in the universe, and eventually we'll find one with the resources to support our work. We just have to, right?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Hey, you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. One of the protesters, the occupiers, the Malheur Federal Wildlife Refuge, is dead. We told you about him earlier, and there are another 8 of them who have been arrested in various different circumstances. One of them was arrested in Arizona after he turned himself in. That was the guy who made a 15-minute long video from the inside of his truck at the very beginning of this occupation, making it sound like he was ready to go down shooting. He went down without incident in Arizona. I'm not trying to say that he's not a tough guy or whatever, but he ended up leaving the refuge, and the feds put out a warrant for his arrest, and he ended up turning himself in Arizona. There are others. Several of them were busted, along with Ammon and Ryan Bundy, the two ostensible leaders of the group. Several were busted last night. That's where the shooting happened, where apparently a group of the occupiers were traveling to a nearby town. They were pulled over during this time, so somewhere on the roads, and they were, at that point, at some point, someone got shot. One of the guys was shot to death. LaVoy. And the occupiers are saying he was shot like over 100 times, that he had his hands up in the air.
The woman who was on site claims that he was maybe shot 6 times and that there were like more than 100 shots fired.
Okay.
Which, again, is it doesn't seem to be particularly good testimony to marksmanship.
So we don't know.
And there have been videos where we've seen police fire 47 times and only hit their intended target a handful.
And we don't know what the scene was like.
It's relatively common when stress is flying. And handguns aren't meant to be weapons that are, they're not weapons for marksmen. They're weapons to fight your way to your rifle.
Yes.
So we're going to your calls and your thoughts about this. There's a lot that we have yet to cover. We've played some of the excerpts from one of the live streams. The activists or the occupiers there do have the ability to stream out live to YouTube, and they've been doing that throughout the day on a channel called Defend Your Base. And so we'll play some more of those excerpts for you on the way. Plus, Ammon Bundy, as we learned earlier in the show, has now asked through his attorney, because he's in jail, Ammon Bundy has had his attorney make a statement asking the remaining occupiers to leave the Federal Wildlife Refuge, while those who are there look like they are literally digging in. They have a caterpillar, an earth-moving digging device, and they are doing some digging.
They're not just digging. I mean, that's not just the speculation. They are digging in.
That's what I'm saying. They're digging, literally.
They're talking about, killing federal agents. They're doing the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, let's go to Jeff. He's in Chicago. You're on Free Talk Live, and you can bring up anything. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, Mark, also.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure. So I was looking at this guy named Lysander Spooner. It's kind of an insult to some poor highwayman who's just a robber on his own to compare him to the state, because the state, doesn't just leave you alone like a regular highwayman would. But I appreciate that you guys are talking about this stuff. A couple of reasons. I think that most of the media either just glosses over it and it's a news item, and then they lie, basically, because it's my understanding he didn't shoot at them. It wasn't a shootout. It was an execution.
The claim is that by the people on site that he had his hands up.
Yeah,
that's the claim.
And one of the things that I read last night said that he left his weapon back at the compound, that he never took it with him when he left.
Well, they don't need that. They can say that, looked like a cell phone. He was holding his finger out, whatever.
Well, see, now, the fact that, anyway, most of the media, I'm wondering what other people say out there. What do you hear from most of the media? I guess they're probably saying that it was a shootout. And then, if they lie about it, they don't have to have a bunch of statists saying, oh, they should get those guys, because I hear some people say stuff like that, I think, but maybe not a lot, but some people.
I hear them, yeah.
What do you guys, yeah. I mean, because that's kind of, it's like they're loyalists or they're useful idiots or something they have no idea, no clue. I suppose most people during the War for Independence were actually for Britain or something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to say the numbers. What you learned in school was it was a third that were for England, a third for secession, and a third didn't really care one way or the other. But
this brings up the clothing that some of the men are, at least one of the men is wearing in this video. The big guy, who's pretty much been most of the audio that we played in the last hour, where he's asking people to militia members to show up and shoot the feds if they get in the way. And we know the feds are apparently blocking off the roads. So if someone were to show up, they would be blocked from getting there. So this guy's asking them to be violent. He's wearing a hat that says 3%. And Darryl, you looked that up.
Yes, and apparently that's reference to the belief that it was only 3% of Americans that actually took up arms to fight against the British military.
So he feels like he's one of them.
Right. They're basically trying to say, this is a second American Revolution, and it's only going to be about 3% of us that are brave enough to wind up standing up and fighting.
It looks like a lot less than 3% in this case. Jeff, anything else you want to share?
Well, now, were you guys talking about that Lysander Spooner in the past? Because I think I heard it from you guys.
Yeah, we've talked about Lysander Spooner on a number of occasions. He wrote No Treason and a number of other treatises and texts.
I looked up this Highwayman thing on YouTube, and that's how I found him. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for the call tonight. He's a great writer. I think well worth a read for anyone who hasn't checked out Lysander Spooner. Very, very anti-state, very pro-freedom. Let's continue here. Let's go to Brian. He's in California on via Skype. Hello, Brian.
Hey, guys.
Hey, you're on the air.
Yeah, I hear you refer to rights all the time when you were talking about like defense, and I had some questions about libertarian rights theory.
Yeah, sure.
In particular, I don't understand its meaning in general. What does it mean to have the right to do something, but not the ability to do so, or not have the right to do something, but you have the ability to do so? I don't understand.
To have the right to do something, but not have the ability to do so.
Yes.
What's a good example of something like that?
Yeah, you're going to have to help me out with that. I don't exactly.
I can give an example of that. Free speech in Turkmenistan.
Do they recognize rights in Turkmenistan? I suspect they don't.
Right.
They don't. So they don't have the ability to, exercise their rights.
Well,
but
their right
every
isn't
human
recognized.
being has the same right. So,
Okay.
It's whether or not a local government recognizes the right that gives one the ability to exercise the right. But
Is that what you had in mind, Brian?
No, I'm talking about libertarian rights theory. So, in particular, what rights the libertarians believe we have. In particular, so freedom of speech is obviously not one of them, right? But the right to self-defense.
I believe you have freedom of speech.
So, let me give you a hypothetical. All right, if I tie you down, right, and I rape you, right, a libertarian would say you have the right to defend yourself, but you can't, right? Let's say I restrain you to the point where it's ensured that you won't be able to do anything.
Right.
I gag you like,
sure,
Silence of the Lambs.
So
what does that mean? Yeah, you imagine yourself restrained. You're fettered, right? Imagine yourself totally restrained, chained up, with a gag over your mouth. What does it mean for you to have the right to do something, to defend yourself when you can't? Or vice versa.
I don't understand the question. What does it mean? I mean, you've stripped the person of their rights.
It means you have the right to, but you can't.
So my hypothetical, I've stripped you the ability in that circumstance. Also, you can flip it, right? Not have the right to do something, but the ability to do so. So what does it mean? Let's say if I'm a king, right? If I'm an all-powerful king, and libertarians say I don't have the right to aggress against you or whatever.
Sure, you have the ability. You don't have to be the king. You, as a human being, have the ability to take you have the ability to take another human's life. You don't have the right to do it, but you have the ability to do it.
Yes,
what does that have to do with libertarianism?
And there's no one to stop me. So I'm asking it. What does it mean? What's the relationship between right and ability? I don't understand. So when you look at the guy that's restrained, right, the guy that's getting raped or murdered, that's being restrained, a libertarian would tell him, hey, you have the right to defend yourself.
No, I think a libertarian would try to help him out. I think a good person would try to stop the aggressor, try to assist the person who's being attacked.
Is that what my right? I have a duty or some type of obligation to help the
guy
out?
A right is a function of ownership. A right, I have the right to drive my car because I own my car. I have the right to speech of my out of my mouth because I own my body.
I don't think you have an obligation to help that person, but it's the right thing to do to help a human who's being attacked. If you want, we can continue the discussion. Free Talk Live.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. You can buy them through expresscoin.com with a check or money order. There are other ways to get Bitcoin, but that's fast, safe, and easy. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon. through saveatpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business. So make sure that they create a positive impression with Reputation Defender, a service from Reputation.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with Reputation Defender. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with Reputation Defender. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media, and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free, at apps.lrn.fm.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. Following sharp increases yesterday, in early trading on Wednesday, gold is $2 lower at $1,118 per ounce. Silver is down 3 cents at $14.54 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $395 US. We have plenty of new 2016 Silver American Eagles in stock. Get yours online at rrbi.co or give us a call at 800-874-9760.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. If you want to help support Free Talk Live, one of the ways you can do it is by shopping through saveatpurse.com. Go to saveatpurse.com. Saveatpurse.com allows you to buy things at Amazon for significant discounts. I have finally gotten 50% off of one of my purchases through saveatpurse.com. My previous record was 45%. Now I have achieved the highest possible discount through saveatpurse.com, and it really didn't take that long to get this one at all. Now, if you set a 50% discount, you should prepare yourself to wait, because there's no guarantee that that thing is going to go anytime soon. Because what's happening is you're competing in a marketplace of potential Bitcoin buyers, people who want to buy your Bitcoin for a significant markup over market value, and that's how you end up getting these amazing Amazon discounts. Usually I'll go for like 20 or 30% if I need something sooner rather than later, because those orders are filled, in my experience, in like less than an hour. But in the case of the 50% that I just recently got, it didn't take more than a couple days. So your luck may vary, but either way, you can get serious discounts. 20 to 30% easy to get 40%, 50%, you're going to be waiting a little longer. Go to saveitpurse.com. The key is you have to have Bitcoin to make this possible, and that's a great reason to get Bitcoin. Saveitpurse.com, saveatpurse.com. When you enter through that link, Free Talk Live will get a very small portion of your future purchases. We're on with Brian in California, who's made, I don't know if this is an esoteric call, but it's certainly it's one that's a little confusing.
Abstract.
It's abstract. It's one of the little confusing to me. You're bringing up rights and abilities and sort of contrasting them and asking what libertarians believe. So what is exactly that? Is there a point you're driving at, Brian?
Yeah, your whole foundation is ridiculous.
Okay.
Right? So
what is the foundation?
I mean, to build it on to build a kind of economic philosophy based on rights, NAP, homesteading, self-ownership assumption, right?
Well,
so
the
these
libertarians really don't believe anything that is beyond the idea of people shouldn't use aggression against one another. That's truly the libertarian viewpoint. Right. Libertarianism doesn't speak anything to economics.
Right, rights theory that libertarians employ largely comes out of the Enlightenment period. So, I mean, this isn't new theory. But what part specifically don't you agree with?
Anything that starts with rights, right? Well,
so you don't believe rights exist?
No.
Okay.
And I don't believe in I don't believe all people own themselves.
Okay.
And I don't believe in homesteading. That's not an efficient way to allocate property.
Cool. There's not a lot of real estate left, so homesteading
you're in the right place,
pretty
Brian.
Inefficient.
You live in California, and we are in New Hampshire, and hopefully you'll stay right where you are.
Well, hold on, Ian, before you just toss down the gauntlet here. So homesteading is
I'm not tossing down the gauntlet. I'm tossing him away. I have no use for this person.
Homesteading's a theory, and it largely does not get employed any longer. So,
Ian, before you criticize me, maybe I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I have an alternative to that. That you may be willing. I mean,
an alternative to what?
To homesteading, or the actual natural law of how property is allocated in a free market. Right? So I'm a free market anarchist, right? But I'm not one who believes in the bull crap that came out of the Austrian philosophy. Or even Ayn Rand.
I don't think rights came out from any of those things.
I think they expounded. I think it was some of it was developed by Ayn Rand, and
I'm pretty sure the idea of rights existed long before Ayn Rand.
Right. Well, he's only talking about the honing and the shaping.
I don't believe in Ayn Rand.
What the hell he has to say? Can we give him 30 seconds?
I don't believe in Ayn Rand. I'm not a Randian.
I believe that Ayn Rand was a person, and she wrote some stuff, but I've not read more than a little bit of it and didn't really care for what I read.
So history doesn't matter, right? It all that matters is...
Ayn Rand was not a historian.
Anyway, go ahead, Brian.
It doesn't matter who came up with what and how they developed it. It just matters what modern libertarian philosophy is now, right? So I don't care about what they started with or the history of it. I care about what most of the figureheads present libertarian theory or ANCAP theory, even from Rothbard, right? So Rothbard took the idea of rights and NAP and he incorporated it, and all this logical bullshit that comes out of...
You can't say that on the radio. We have to let you go, dude.
Radio.
I don't know if you know that you're on a radio show, but we have radio stations, and we have to, unfortunately, protect their licenses. Sorry about that. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. So he doesn't believe in rights. He doesn't believe in the idea of homesteading. He calls himself an anarcho-capitalist.
Market capitalist.
A market capitalist.
Market anarchist, excuse
me. If you don't believe in rights, I got no use for you. I'm not going to try to persuade you to believe in rights. I would rather find the people. That's why I was saying I'll just throw this guy away. Please stay in California. If you don't believe in rights, I want nothing to do with you because you're dangerous. If you don't believe in rights, you won't respect the rights of other people. The idea of rights is just an idea. There's no proof that rights exist. It's just an agreement between human beings that benefits us. It benefits us to respect other people's rights because we want them to respect our rights. And if you don't believe in rights, then you can't be expected to respect those other people's rights. So you're a danger to society.
Rights are delineated, and I've said this over and over again. You can call them real or not real if that's what you want to do, and that's fine. But they're delineated by ownership, by property. So property doesn't exist, right? Like there's a truck that sits outside. It's green and has a gray bed because my old one got broken.
The truck exists.
The truck exists. My ownership of it is abstract, and there may be a piece of paper that says I own it, but it's still abstract in the sense that people recognize, not my truck, must be somebody else's truck. And then when I say my truck and my key fits my truck, they say that that's mine.
That's
right.
Mark's truck.
So it doesn't exist in reality as my truck. It just simply is in agreement, in a world of agreement. Rights are a function of the agreement that you own yourself. So are you in a terrible situation where you can't, like, for instance, you are a deaf mute. You have the right to free speech even as a deaf mute, but you don't have the ability to do it. So rights theory simply says that you own your vocal cords. Your ability to use them and articulate the words that come out of your mouth are, different. Like babies, they own their vocal cords and can make loud noises, but they can't give the Gettysburg Address.
Yes.
So they have to. It takes them years to come up to the point where they can simply read and memorize the Gettysburg Address. And it's going to take them many more years to be able to create a work of prose so moving and interesting, right? So that's what rights are. You don't have to agree with them, but to disagree with rights, you must fundamentally, in my opinion, disagree with property.
Yeah, and we didn't get to that point with him. It would have been interesting to hear if he believes in property.
Well, I want to hear him call back in again sometime. I mean, I
Any old time.
I
just
like
not
these people that talk about theory. Theories I find interesting, and my ideas have changed over time. It's people like this that with ideas that have changed my opinion because they get me thinking.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
far more
having
interested than
conversations,
that.
but I'm sorry, I'm not going to change my belief in rights. I think rights are a good idea, and it's a firm idea that I have.
I may very well change them, but I have to be presented with evidence that is articulated well and very moving.
I've got a question for the people that don't believe in property. What happens with my underpants? Do I have to share those if there's no property?
Nobody wants them, dude.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Further, will the person who doesn't believe in property, do they own anything? And if so, can you take it?
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online, and I found it. It's buysellmakeoffer.com, a brand new company that's the newest and best way to sell products online. You can even use Skype or video to sell your car, home, any product. You get 30 days free, packages starting from only $7.95, and buysellmakeoffer.com never charges item fees ever. Just go sign up, then load your stuff to sell. I love this site, buysellmakeoffer.com. Got it? Buy, sell, makeoffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. I know this sounds unbelievable, but at my house, we saved as much as 45% off of a new item on Amazon. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
Cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer tech developments happen fast. Stay in the loop with the Daily Decrypt, a new video channel and podcast that will keep you on top of the latest innovations in crypto finance, security, networking, transportation, and gadgetry like drones and 3D printers. Subscribe to the Daily Decrypt on YouTube and SoundCloud and be an early adopter of the future. The Daily Decrypt.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
Money, power, and respect are all yours at creditsuccesssecretsrevealed.com. Be seen as an industry leader. You can do it. The last application you filled out when it was time to hit submit did your nerves spike. You didn't get the approval you seek, but there's a better way. We teach you exactly what to place into the right systems the right way the first time so you get approved. Get up to $100,000 in instant business credit. Many people will get cash on the spot. Use those two tools in your new corporate credit engine so you can walk into the bank and get your project funded today. It's all about today at creditsuccesssecretsrevealed.com. Credit Success Secrets Revealed is explosive and ignites instant results. Dial 1-800-707-8719. That's 1-800-707-8719. 1-800-707-8719. Or just go to creditsuccesssecretsrevealed.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. We invite you here to join us on the toll-free number, but don't say the F word or the S word, please. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Or we'll have to use our dump button on you. And we don't enjoy using the dump button. I do not get pleasure from using the dump button. In fact, it's upsetting because usually it ends a call early, and I like to, end a call when it's in due time. So join us here. You still have plenty of time to get on and share your thoughts on whatever you want. It doesn't have to be the Federal Wildlife Refuge in Oregon that is not yet under siege by the federal government, but they have been picking off the occupiers at sort of on the periphery. There was a
opportune time.
Yeah, there was a group of them traveling yesterday evening or late afternoon yesterday, and they were picked off, and then a few others have been arrested. And when I say picked off, I mean arrested. Only one has been shot to death at this point, but the rest of them who are there in the refuge are certainly well aware of that shooting and are now literally digging into the earth and asking other supporters to come out and help them, and literally asking them in a YouTube streaming video to kill any federal agents that get in their way. So this does not look like a conflict that is going to end peaceably. You've got violent people on both sides of the fence here, and we'll tell you more about it. You can share your thoughts at 855-450-FREE, or we can talk about rights and that sort of stuff. Liberty Forum, by the way, a great place to discuss things like rights. Liberty Forum. Go to nhlibertyforum.com. You can get your tickets there February 18th through the 21st. If you love liberty, this is going to be a great event for you. Edward Snowden is going to be the keynote speaker, and there will be dozens of other speakers, panel discussions, things like that will be happening throughout the weekend. It's actually Thursday, February 18th through Sunday, February 21st, and that's coming up here. We're talking about 3 weeks, basically, from pretty much three weeks from tonight. We're going to be broadcasting live, Free Talk Live, broadcasting every single night. You can join us in person, in reality, and hundreds of other real-life, liberty-oriented people. These are the people who will give you, hopefully, that hope that you may have lost. If you're on the outside of New Hampshire and you're feeling lonely and you're feeling desperate and you're feeling like it's going to come down to you and the federal government or whatever, if you're thinking about going out to Oregon, don't do that. Don't do that. Choose the peaceful route. Choose the route that makes the most sense, which is to gather together in large numbers of other peaceful people who can then work together to change the system, which is working. We're seeing that happen here in New Hampshire. We've actually got free staters who've been elected. Imagine that, liberty-minded people elected to actual state representative seats. It's happening here in New Hampshire, and that's just one of the myriad of activist projects and things that are going on here. You'll get a sampling of that when you're at the Liberty Forum. nhlibertyforum.com. Go lock your tickets in now and get registered. Get your hotel room taken care of. nhlibertyforum.com as we continue here with your calls and thoughts. If we get a chance, we'll play some more excerpts from one of the videos of the occupiers out in Oregon, what they are saying on these live streams. We got some of that coming up here. But first, let's go to the phones where Tom is on the line in Baltimore, Maryland. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Tom.
Good evening, gentlemen. Well, the FCC is certainly not an organization that I'm a fan of this evening because I really wanted to hear the rest of the godless rape fantasy analogy, guys.
It was kind of funny.
It was a graphic description of raping Mark.
I think he was talking about raping.
Without lube, and I will not give you a reach around, but I will gently pull your hair as I nibble your left ear. Not the right ear, the left ear.
I've had you guys on in the background. I've been in and out of the room. I asked the screener, I said, you're still on the topic of Oregon. He said, talk about whatever you like, as always. And I had thought that I had heard something that strayed away from that a bit. I didn't realize just how in detail we were to another subject. I'm going to stay on that.
I gotta say, it wasn't as good as the fan fiction that we were reading during one of our times off the air. Someone had submitted some of the fan fiction written about the Malheur federal wildlife.
Homoerotic fan fiction.
Right. Gay fan fiction written about Ammon Bundy and the other characters up there, which was pretty entertaining, I gotta say. Much more entertaining than the caller.
I heard about some of the creative care packages that were sent up there. Yeah.
Just in case they needed them.
People's imaginations. And by the way, the guy asking a question about the underwear, see, I took some mental notes here. I couldn't help but kind of just fall right into that pit. I guess the underwear would be wrapped around you somewhere, right? You'd be bound with it or gagged with it.
No. So the question was in regards to the people that say that there's no such thing as property. Like, property doesn't exist, man. Like, everybody just shares everything. So do I get my own underwear, or do I have is there communal underwear and there's like 8 pairs of them, and, you know, like we all kind of share those?
I was just stuck, I guess, on his trying to use the rape fantasy as an analogy. I was going to say it's not a legitimate question anyway, because at least in Maryland.
What's not a legitimate question?
Well, he was posing what would it mean if you were bound and prostrate and he was doing something to you? Was that the same guy?
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. I was just going to say, and this is where my mind goes sometimes, it's not a legitimate question because in Maryland, at least, without vaginal penetration, there is no rape. So it's a question that's not a question. So you would
really in Maryland, just to clarify, it's not rape if there's a rectal penetration?
Absolutely. Without vaginal penetration, there is not a rape.
Wow. What is it called then? There's got to be
lascivious, I'm sure.
Oh, there's sodomy, there's sexual assaults, and things of that nature. But a guy absolutely cannot be raped in Maryland.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get off of that because, like I said, my mind can just delve into those.
So any comments on what's going on in Oregon, Tom? Because you were the guy who broke it to us last night. If you hadn't have called in to give us a heads up, we might not have known. So thank you for that. But what's the latest? What do you want to say about it?
Well, I had hoped that I'd wake up this morning and find out that no one had actually died.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was the grandfatherly type guy, and I was really curious as to how in the world these guys, in conjunction with the state police, I'm talking about the FBI, could plan this takedown, this arrest, with all the resources in the world and all the manpower in the world, and not be able to take these folks without taking a life. A cop who does a career, 2 decades or more in law enforcement, is going to make thousands of vehicle stops, hundreds of which are felony stops, oftentimes with just him and his partner, maybe a backup unit with a few other guys or gals. And without incident, these folks who are felons and they have felonious bad intent are taken into custody without incident. I'm thinking, here's one stop these guys with all these resources have, and they got to kill somebody, the grandfather of all people. Now, I did see the tape. Someone brought that to my attention
What
this
tape?
morning. And the tape of Mr. Is it Sickle? I can't remember.
The dead gentleman?
Yes, the decedent. He did speak as though this was going to be his final stand.
Yes,
he didn't use those words, but it.
But yet his friends, his associates, say that he had his hands in the air.
He was also the father of like 50 foster kids or something.
11 of them, yeah.
That may be right now, but he may have been the father previously of more.
I see.
Yeah.
And regardless, that even brings up more questions because certainly FBI, they know the techniques and they have the equipment to take someone who has a death wish, if he did have one, into custody without taking his life.
Yeah, that's true.
Again,
They got plenty of non-lethal weapons they could have used against him.
All the time in the world, all the resources in the world, all the manpower in the world. And, it makes you wonder, did they, in fact, want to make an example of these people? It's just very troubling.
Well, yeah, the example is they are willing to use violence, and now you've got these other people in the wildlife refuge who, instead of leaving, are now literally digging into the earth with a caterpillar device.
I wanted to make a comment about that, if you can hold me over.
Yeah, I can do that. Tom, a former cop on the line from Baltimore, will continue with his thoughts about what's going to happen next. 8 people arrested, 1 dead in Oregon. It's Free Talk Live.
Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof money to the people where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom in the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com. There comes a time when you need custom embroidered or screen printed apparel for your business, organization, or a special event. Corporate Casuals has been helping people create great looking logoed apparel for over 25 years. They can produce a single piece or thousands using name brand apparel like Nike, Patagonia, Adidas, and Hanes. Create your logo in their online embroidery design studio or upload your existing logo and they'll turn it into embroidery. Go to corporatecasuals.com/FTL and include FTL in the order notes and save 5% on your order.
Winter has just begun, and are you already tired of being cold? How would you like to never be cold again? This is Dale with Fortress Clothing, and I'm here to tell you, you will never be cold again with Fortress. If you're tired of freezing your butt off, elk hunting, sitting in a tree stand deer hunting, winter camping, fishing, ice fishing, no longer fear the cold. If you snowmobile, ski, snowboard, get Fortress. Sledding with the kids, shoveling the walks, shopping, or if you or your spouse get cold feet at home, get Fortress. If you're stuck outside working in the cold or find yourself in an emergency situation, get our winter bug out bag and you will never be cold again. Fortress is the answer, so quit complaining and go to fortressclothing.com. It's a mid-layer garment that goes with anything you want to wear. Enter coupon code RADIO and get 20% off any item. Go now while we still have inventory. fortressclothing.com.
Understanding your credit score is the first step towards managing and improving it. This is Charlie Sundstrom with your Van Dyke Mortgage Minute. The most influential component of your credit score is your payment history. Almost equally as important is the amount you owe on credit accounts. Also impacting your score, but to a lesser degree, are the length of time you've utilized your credit, the number of new accounts, credit inquiries, in your various types of credit accounts. To help achieve or maintain a healthy credit score, have a system set up to assure your bills are always paid on time. Don't max out your cards. It's better to have a high credit limit with a low balance. Never close old accounts. The age of these can actually help your credit score. But don't be afraid to use your credit. You need several accounts in order to have a credit score. Just keep the corresponding payments within your means. For your mortgage pre-approval and refi needs, start by visiting VanDykeMortgage.com.
Corporate NMLS 3035. Van Dyke Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Charlie Sundstrom, NMLS 134251.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain, maybe enough time for you. If you dial now, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Don't forget to become a Free Talk Live amplifier. You can do that for $5 a month. Go to amp.freetalklive.com. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, and the idea is that you send $5 a month into Free Talk Live. We invest that into the show and use it to get on more radio stations, not by buying the airtime, but by marketing Free Talk Live to those stations. Darryl, you and I call radio stations on a regular basis. We were doing that this morning, and throughout the week we tend to do that when we're not in New Hampshire's State House testifying, as we will be likely tomorrow morning. Actually, I don't know if we're going to testify tomorrow morning because it's going to be a prostitution legalization bill, and normally you and I are pretty good about going in and testifying on things, but it might be better to leave that to the ladies.
Yes.
I don't know. I'll see. I guess I'll see how I feel tomorrow
I'm going
morning.
to definitely cover the press conference for that bill.
That's correct. Yeah, we're going to be there.
And then I'm probably heading into the election law where they have a subcommittee because I like to keep an eye on that committee. I have sort of adopted that committee.
This is something we need more of, Darryl, is people with that level of dedication. Because if there were 26 Darryls or 25 other Darryls, there's like about 20-something state house committees here in New Hampshire.
Yes.
If there were 20-something more Darryls who could actually adopt each one of those committees, meaning you pay attention to just their bills, you pay attention to what hearings they're having, you go to the hearings, you can testify on the stuff that you think is important to talk to them about, and you've become an expert to these folks.
Yes.
You're someone who, you're there so often, they know who you are, they know you by first name. Usually it's you and the bureaucrats from the elections department, the Secretary of State's office.
And one thing that I've seen a lot more so far this year is some bureaucrat from the municipal association coming in to testify. Because there's been a lot more stuff dealing with local elections that has come forward this year.
Right. So, but generally, it's you versus the bureaucrats, and you're the only person in there arguing for more election freedom and like the ability to run as a third-party candidate and things like that. And so, to have somebody adopt one of these committees across the board would be incredibly powerful. These are some of the ripe opportunities that we have here in New Hampshire, where every single piece of legislation gets a public hearing. If you want to speak on something, you can absolutely go and speak on it. And I highly recommend people get involved in the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. This is a great way to coordinate with others getting involved in the State House. And you can even be an activist for New Hampshire without even living here. As a New Hampshire Liberty Alliance supporter, you can be outside of New Hampshire, and you can do what you also do, Darryl, is review the bills. You've reviewed more than 130 bills so far this year.
Nearly 140.
And that's a huge chunk of the nearly 800-some that
850, I believe.
So if you're not in New Hampshire and you want to help us with what we're doing here, you can review those bills. You can review those from anywhere in the world. As long as you understand the ideas of liberty, you would be useful to the New Hampshire Liberty Movement. You can help strengthen the most effective movement in the world. So please go to nhliberty.org and learn how you can help us out. And then, of course, more importantly, move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, which is now at 98% of its goal. You can go there to freestateproject.org to get signed up for that. Let's go to Tom, or back to Tom in Baltimore. I know you said you had a few more thoughts you wanted to share about the remainder of the occupiers who are still there in the wildlife refuge in Oregon, and many of whom are literally digging into the dirt with a Caterpillar device, and they've got what appears to be machine guns and are advocating for killing federal agents. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to digress momentarily until I just looked at the clock. I'll just say this. And you never cease to amaze me with your knowledge base. You're absolutely right about what you're saying regarding the legislation that you're looking to get passed. How did you get into politics like that? I mean, you're a young guy, right?
I'm 37.
Okay. And that's still impressed.
Yeah, so basically, I found out how easy it was to testify here in New Hampshire to committees. You look at the schedule, it comes out Thursday or Friday. You see what bills are having hearings the following
next week.
Generally, those hearings are Tuesdays and Thursdays. They have their session on Wednesdays. And I knew that New Hampshire did not have the best ballot access laws. And so I started going and seeing what was being done in the election law committee and decided
nothing good.
Right. And it was really after there was a horrible bill that sort of slipped under my radar. And luckily that's being challenged in federal court right now at my request to the NHCLU. But it was after that I decided I'm going to show up for every hearing that they have to make sure that nothing slips by. And, if it does, at least I can try to stop it beforehand by telling them, hey, listen, if you pass this, there will be a lawsuit.
Fantastic. Yeah, maybe I'll write you or we can talk off air someday, and I can give you some tips. I might learn some things from you. I can proudly say that I'm responsible for taking what was really just an idea, getting it drafted and having it heard and read before the various committees and passed into law. My bill was the fastest in the history of Maryland, and I found out later that there was a group, actually several groups, that had been working on it literally for decades. And I stumbled onto a couple of ways of working with the legislature here in Maryland, and I think it would work anywhere. That really is like magic, and I'd like to share that with you sometime. Like I said, you might give me some tips as well.
Do you want to give out your email,
Yeah,
Darryl?
certainly. Darryl at freetalklive.com.
All right, Tom, you got like 30 seconds if you want to give us your thoughts on Oregon.
I'm going to tell you what I heard, and I wasn't even going to bring it up until you mentioned these land movers. Last evening, I had heard from the source that gave me the information about someone being killed, which wasn't completely accurate because they thought it was Ammon, but it was something that came out long before anyone else ever heard about it. So the source is pretty good, just maybe a little off. It told me that there were skirmishes last evening that weren't being reported. And today I heard a young lady call into a radio station, and I only caught the tail end of it, and it actually was a show about religion, and she was asking for prayer help because her friends were in that facility, and she didn't know if it was a trick to get them out or not, but she claimed that they were dug in. And I wasn't sure what she meant. People use that term a lot, but she said in holes, fighting, exchanging gunfire with the FBI as if they were having gun battles all day. Which,
Interesting.
It clicked with what the guy said the other evening. And then when you mentioned the land movers, what were they doing with them? It really makes me wonder how much truth is it to the possibility that they're actually fighting up there.
Why wouldn't they say it, though, on the camera? I mean, if they were actually involved in skirmishes, as you were suggesting, why wouldn't they say, the Fed shot at us last night, please come help? I mean, they're asking for help, but they haven't said anything about actually trading gunfire, at least that I've seen. I mean, by no means have I watched any of the full amount of streaming that they've done.
We've watched a bit.
I've skipped through it, but yes, sir.
Maybe they started it, and maybe they don't want to implicate themselves.
Could be.
I'm just guessing here.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting speculation, Tom. Thank you for the call tonight, man. I appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to Bradley in Michigan. Bradley, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a update about the medical marijuana trial that I talked about the past couple days.
Yeah, this is the guy who is on trial facing, I believe, felony distribution charges. He was working at a medical marijuana facility in Michigan when an undercover agent came in and was able to purchase marijuana without the proper paperwork, basically, and they came after this dude. What's the latest?
Okay, so he got charged with 3 charges, all of which are felonies. One of them was possession with intent to sell. The other was manufacturing something, and then the other one was operating a drug house. The jury made their decision. You know, it took them several hours, so we thought it was looking good.
Uh-oh.
Well, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. The third charge, the operating the drug house, they found him not guilty. But the first charge for possession with intent, they found him guilty. And then the second charge, manufacturing, it was a hung jury. So I'm guessing the prosecutor's probably gonna, keep pushing for the second charge, and they're gonna find a new jury. And they're gonna select a new jury probably, and they're not gonna have all those supporters that they had last time. So
it's
they're probably gonna be more likely to say that he's guilty.
Well, thank you for the update on that. And, I think that once again, I'll circle right back around to the same old invitation. If you care about liberty, you got to get to New Hampshire at this point. We've got to get the numbers
I already
together.
signed up.
Excellent.
I already signed up, and, my girlfriend and I are moving.
Did she sign up?
We're probably, she signed up too. We're probably going to be moving in a couple years. I still have things that I got to do. And
yep, you got to tie up those loose ends and make sure everything's all taken care of back in the homestead so you can move to New Hampshire and get active here and then have more of an effect for freedom. Thanks, Bradley, for your call. Thanks for the updates on that story. I do appreciate it.
No problem.
And it has been Ian here with you tonight.
And Mark.
And Darryl.
We will see you tomorrow online between now and then. And there's still some stuff in this militia thing we weren't able to cover. We'll post some of it to our Facebook and Twitter. And I'm sure there will be developments between now and tomorrow night. This has been Free Talk Live. I'm Ian Freeman, host of Free Talk Live. We've been covering Uber for years on the radio with their ongoing legal cases across the globe defending your right to give people rides without asking government permission. I wanted to support Uber more directly, so I signed up to be a driver. It's fun to meet new people and help Uber push forward innovation. As of this recording, Uber is active in 67 countries, so there's a good chance they're available in your area. If you'd like to drive for Uber and make some money helping people get where they want to go, sign up at drive.freetalklive.com, and you'll get a $100 bonus after you complete a certain number of trips. With Uber, you can drive anytime you want. You set your schedule. To get started, you need a good driving record, 4-door vehicle, insurance, registration, and to pass a background check. It costs nothing to sign up, so visit drive.freetalklive.com. That's drive.freetalklive.com. And if you just want to try Uber as a rider, visit ride.freetalklive.com. Your first ride's free. As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Cop Block Radio is up next, live after the news on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, January 27th, 2016. Silver is trading at $14.50 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,120 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $398. Antiwar.com reports influential Iraqi member of parliament and Badr Brigade leader Hadi Amiri on Tuesday declared U.S. airstrikes against the Islamic State to have been a failure, saying they'd killed some of the Islamic State's figures, but that the group remains large, flush with cash, and in a state of high morale. Amiri said, "Today, the Islamic State is a state. It has command centers. Their locations are known. Their logistics are known," adding that the U.S. is not attacking the Islamic State site, highlights and is subsequently not doing major harm to the continued control of much of Iraq and Syria by the Islamic State. Amiri also faulted U.S. arming schemes for moderate Syrian rebels, saying this was a big source of weapons for the Islamic State and that what few moderate factions even exist in Syria are so weak that the Islamic State is just taking the arms away from them. The Badr Brigade is among the largest of the Shiite militias fighting against the Islamic State in Iraq, and this has made Amiri hugely influential among the nation's Shiite majority. While he hasn't been as overtly hostile to U.S. deployments as some other militias, he has been very critical of U.S. tactics. If you're fed up with the government running every aspect of your life, but you're not listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet, what's wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen, or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. UPI reports Concepcion Picciotto, who kept a peace vigil against nuclear weapons outside the White House for nearly 3.5 decades, believed to be the longest protest in U.S. history, died this week at a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C. Picciotto recently suffered a fall, but the cause of her death Monday was not immediately known. Concepcion, known as Connie to many, was believed to be around 80 years old. She began her anti-nuclear proliferation vigil outside the presidential residence in August 1981, just 6 months into Ronald Reagan's administration. But the protest, known as the White House Peace Vigil, was actually started 2 months earlier by activist William Thomas. After she met Thomas, she was a regular resident in Lafayette Park on Pennsylvania Avenue, across the street from the north lawn of the White House. Various other activists joined and departed the vigil over the 35-year span, but Picciotto was the only one who remained as a permanent fixture. Between August 1981 and January of this year, more than 12,500 consecutive days of protest under her belt, it's believed Picciotto's was the longest-running political protest in American history. Over the years, various signage had accompanied her makeshift residence near Lafayette Park. One said, "Live by the bomb, die by the bomb." Another said, "War is not the answer." Advocates and supporters colloquially referred to her post outside the White House as 1601 Pennsylvania Avenue. For virtually the entire protest, maintaining the vigil became a game of cat and mouse. According to rules by the National Park Service, vigils cannot be left unattended, even for a brief moment. If they are, they can be removed by authorities. In 2013, the display was immediately but temporarily taken down by officers when the young activists stationed there left their post. In the end, Picciotto's presence on Pennsylvania Avenue outlasted the entire administration of 4 American presidents and nearly a fifth. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Ammon Bundy, the purported leader of an occupation at a wildlife refuge in Oregon, and several of his companions were arrested by federal authorities Tuesday evening. A law enforcement source told CNN that shots were fired during a parking stop where Ammon Bundy and 7 others were arrested, though it was not clear who opened fire first. LaVoy Finicum, who acted as the group's spokesman, was killed by police during the incident. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Amid the catastrophic economic crisis spurred by Tuesday's release of This Christmas, the new holiday-themed album by John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, economic experts told reporters today the Christmas CD has quickly plunged the nation into a double-dip recession.
When investors learned that one-time screen couple John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John had reunited after 35 years for an album of timeless Christmas classics, investors had no choice but to pull money from markets immediately. We were already on shaky ground with the collapse of the U.S. subprime mortgage market and the reversal financial crisis in Europe, but consumer confidence plummeted after Americans saw the new album with a picture of Travolta and Olivia Newton-John holding cups of hot cocoa. We believe that when other countries find out the album features a Christmas song that pays tribute to summer nights, we could be looking at a global contagion. This is the blackest day on Wall Street in 2 decades.
This is the Onion News Network.
Cop Block is filmed on location with the men and women of Cop Block. All suspects are innocent, so long as the police are doing the investigations. What's happening, everybody? Welcome Wednesday night back on LRN. Cop Block Radio live coming at you.
Oh, it has been a long time. I'm so glad to be back.
What's up, Severin?
Not much, man. Life is good. We're back on the air. It was a very, very hard project setting up a radio station from scratch, I got to tell you.
I see you got Grace coming in over there.
Oh man, I had the box for the soundboard in my hand, and I was like, can I still send this back to Amazon because I can't figure this thing out? Then as with most projects, you just really got to unplug, let your mind calm down and stop working yourself up, and then go back to it, and it kind of just figured itself out.
Well, that's good. You've been contacted by the government recently?
Have I been contacted? Not lately. I've gone out cop blocking a few times, so I've filmed them, but I haven't really had any contact other than my court case that's going on for my arrest. I had the judge contact me and tell me, surprisingly enough, that the police denied a judge's request for the videotape of my arrest. So I had to go in and fill out official subpoena papers because they denied his non-official, just basic request.
Did you say, look, never mind, I got my own, here. I'll give you mine.
Well, no, theirs shows something that I believe happened, which was them entering my car while I was in custody. And I think that's why they don't want to release it, because if they're caught,
they know they broke the law by doing that. Yeah,
yeah, cop breaking the law couldn't happen.
Nah, you kidding? Nah.
So how about you? How's Ohio?
Ohio's pretty interesting, man. I haven't been contacted myself, but they plan on contacting me on the 9th of February. I'm going to be in court for my trial, and Sergeant Gillespie in Parma assaulted me and then arrested me for it. And I think, as far as I know, that and the thing with the sign with the turn now is also going to be combined. So hopefully by February 9th, I'll have some resolution on what the hell's going on with my case.
I'm looking forward to hearing what happens, because I know you're not up for any plea deal. So I want to see them lose on your case and just look really, really dumb, and then have you sue.
Let me take a plea deal. When I was assaulted, and then I got arrested for being assaulted. That's okay.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's one of our stories tonight. Is a case that was well known across the country and even the world from over the summer, a viral video